Hello guys, today we will be talking about what if Naruto was in Highschool DXD Part 3. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Now let's begin. It was a bright chamber filled with torches providing the right amount of lighting. The whole place was built with white marble and high-rising pillars stood to support a giant ceiling. Two men stood against each other, each judging the other guy if the queer look in their eyes said something. One of them was an old man with a long black hair left free which had some gray in them. His eyes were electric blue and his face had a huge scar on it. He had a square face with a bushy beard. He was overall a handsome middle-aged man. He wore a plain white toga which may have covered his privates but not his muscular body. The man spoke, "I thank you on behalf of the Greek pantheon for apprehending my wayward son. He always has been problematic but never to this extent. Nevertheless, our gratitude remains." The man standing opposite to him was none other than our protagonist, who said, "It's not a problem, Lord Zeus. He was my problem as well." Well, there you heard it. It's been 2 days since Naruto had come out from Tartarus. The man that Naruto was talking to was none other than the king of the Greek gods. As to why he was there, Zeus wanted to thank Naruto personally for bringing down Ares, as he would have caused a lot of problems if he had somehow freed Cronus. Naruto had already surrendered Ares prior to Athena, but it seemed that Zeus wanted to meet Naruto to thank him in person, and Naruto agreed to meet him in the temple at Mt. Olympus. Ares will be judged according to our old traditions. While he is still one of us, his crimes are too serious to go unpunished. While a death sentence is a bit too much, I assure you that he won't just be let free after getting a slap on the wrist. I trust you and your associates don't find any problems in this." Naruto replied, "None at all. As long as you keep him on a tight leash." Zeus nodded his head and said, "That will be so. You won't be seeing him for a long time." Zeus then looked at Naruto and said, "Now that that's over, let's talk on other matters." Naruto looked at Zeus in the eye and asked, "What is it that you want from me, Lord Zeus?" Zeus replied, "Before that, let me call someone else here." Zeus clapped his hands slightly and from the shadows a black-haired man emerged. Naruto recognized the man. Naruto looked stunned for a second before he understood what was going on. He said, "Ah. I see, so that's how it is it? You were playing as a double agent for Zeus, weren't you, Prometheus?" Prometheus smiled and then said, "Forgive me for the deception. I wished to keep my alliances secret for the time being as we needed more information." Naruto then looked at Zeus and asked, "So you knew?" Zeus nodded. "Others may judge me as a stubborn, paranoid and arrogant buffoon, but all of those qualities of mine were earned through substance and not hot air. I may not be the smartest person alive, but I wouldn't have ruled as the leader of the Greek pantheon if I couldn't detect schemes made against me." Naruto nodded his head and looked impressed. He then said, "If you knew beforehand, then why not take action?" Zeus said, "Like Prometheus said before, we required information. I knew that Ares wouldn't have the balls to do something like this without backup of any kind. He may have been a hothead, but even he knew better than to free Cronus, someone who he can't control. Thus I wished to know why he did it." Naruto nodded his head in understanding. Zeus then looked at Naruto with a queer look and asked, "I understand that you may have the answer we seek." Naruto didn't say anything before asking, "I believe that you may already know what I am." Zeus nodded his head and said, "Yes." Naruto then said, "Then, this would be easier to explain." He then took out a sealing tag from his pockets and showed it to Zeus. Zeus could feel the amount of power coming from the sealing tag and gave an inquisitive look at it. Naruto then replied, "This tag was not something I am familiar with, but the symbols within it are. It basically translates to mind, spirit, body control." It was then Zeus understood the implications of the seal. He said, "So Ares could have controlled Cronus with that tag?" Naruto replied, "The tag is powerful, but Cronus is a lot more than what this tag could have handled. Although I admit that there is a good chance it may have worked on a weakened Cronus who had just awakened. Though normally, it would be impossible for anyone above the rank of a low ultimate class devil to fall for it." Zeus sighed in relief when he heard that piece of news. To say that his paranoia acted up when he thought that the tag could control someone like Cronus was an understatement. He was freaking out on the inside before calming down when he heard the piece of news from Naruto. Zeus then said, "I see. Thank you for enlightening me on the subject. But coming back, I have heard about what you have spoken with Prometheus with regards to your origins." Naruto then said, "Yes." Zeus replied, "Please don't fret. I only wish to help. I understand that this enemy of yours has been hard to track down. Allow my forces to help you do that. Naruto looked surprised and said, why help me? Zeus said, on one hand, we do owe you for your help in bringing down Ares before he could free Cronus. The other concerns with the person that instigated the whole thing. If such a person is let free, then there'll be a whole lot of trouble, and eventually my pantheon will be involved once again. This person must be brought down. Naruto understood what Zeus wanted. As much as he tried to hide it, he got that Zeus was paranoid. Even of him. That's why he moved cautiously when Ares betrayed him. Naruto understood that Zeus will try to get rid of him if it weren't for Prometheus who vouched for him, and also the fact that he required Naruto for information on Zetsu as much as Naruto required Zeus for his manpower. It was a bilateral deal where both the parties benefited. Thus Naruto could only agree to the help given. Thank you, Lord Zeus, your help is much appreciated. Zeus then smiled and nodded his head. He said, then let's shake on it. He held out his hand for Naruto to grab on, which Naruto did before Zeus asked, we have a tradition of swearing on the river Styx before we make any promises so that our partner doesn't back out. Are you willing to make the deal? Naruto said, all right. Zeus then said, I, Zeus, King of the Gods, hereby proclaim that I will help Naruto Uzumaki in his endeavors and won't back out of our mutual agreement or betray him in any form or manner. Do you agree to do the same, Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto replied, I agree. A black light emanated from the bodies of both Naruto and Zeus. Zeus then said, this signifies that the oath is complete. Naruto then removed his hand from Zeus. Zeus looked at Naruto and said, now then, I say we celebrate this momentous occasion. It was at that time when Zeus said that a tinkling sound emerged from the bracelet. Once he saw who it was, he said, would you excuse me for a moment? Zeus then went to the side to talk in private. Naruto was usually not a busybody or a nosy neighbor who liked to eavesdrop on what others were talking about. But now he was curious as to why the proclaimed king of the gods in the Greek pantheon was acting this way. While it was not on purpose, his enhanced hearing did allow him to catch some of the conversations. Zeus said, yes mistress, this slave obeys. No mistress, slave understands. Please no. Not that, yes. Yes. This slave will come right away. Zeus then came back to Naruto and Prometheus. He coughed and said, now, then, I believe I must take my leave. My queen has not been in the greatest of moods in recent days, and my presence is required for her to keep calm. I shall contact you once we have enough information. Naruto said, farewell. Zeus nodded his head and disappeared in a flash of light, leaving Naruto and Prometheus alone to ruminate in silence. Prometheus said, now that went by very fast, didn't it? Naruto joked, well, of course. Anyone could see at this point, he's whipped. Prometheus snorted, of course. Everyone knew that Hera was a dominatrix both in bed and in life. That's why Zeus always runs off to sleep with other women. So that he could erase the memory of his wife handling the whip. Naruto asked, how the hell do you know that detail? Prometheus said, simple. The pair of them did this play in public in front of all the gods. Naruto didn't say anything but gave a judging look. However, Prometheus didn't falter and even went to add on, fun fact, it seemed Hera was turned on when all sights were on her punishing Zeus. Thought Naruto. An exhibitionist on top of being a sadist, I like this woman. Thought Kurama. Shikaka, who had woken up, said, she's crazy, me like her. Naruto replied, you guys are seriously weird perverts if you like this shit. Oh wait, never mind. I just remembered that you always were one. Kurama snorted and said, and so was your mother. Do you know how many times your mother tied your father with her chains whenever they had dash? Naruto thought, whoa. Whoa. What the fuck, Kurama? Don't talk about my parents' sex life to me. Kurama grinned evilly and said, and what if I will? What can you do to stop me? Shikaku added, go on, Kurama. I want to hear this story. Son Goku pitched in too, you know, I usually stay away from this kind of thing. But I am a tad bit curious on what that story is all about too. Naruto said, alright. Time out. It seems you guys have a lot of energy, so go ahead and release it on this. Kurama then saw Naruto's bloody, disgusting imagination once again taking the form of him and Shikaka once again. However, this time, a horny Son Goku was added to the movie. Kurama could swear that he saw the title Part 2 emerge. No. Not this again. Naruto, You swore that you'll never do this kind of thing. Huh. What's that? Wait, what the fuck is this shit? Naruto. You'll pay for this. Naruto. I swear to you that this monkey will rip you into pieces for showing this shit. Ha 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 ha. Enjoy the experience, guys, it will be over before you know it. Naruto then decided to cut off the link between him and the tailed beasts before he looked towards Prometheus and asked, "Now then, are you willing to keep up your end of the bargain now?" Prometheus nodded his head and asked, "Where do we start?" Naruto then said, "Start from the beginning." Prometheus said, "Alright then." 2 days later in Kyoto. No. Not there. It's embarrassing. Come on, you know you want it, right? Does feel good. It's embarrassing, but it feels so good. Please pound it with your great big thing. Here it comes. Yeah, give it to me and dash. Seriously? This is what you wanted to show me? Asked a disgruntled Naruto. Aw, come on. Don't say that you didn't enjoy it, said Azazel while whining. As you may have guessed it, both our protagonist and the fallen pervert are watching porn sitting side by side on a couch. Well, hentai, but you get the deal. The television screen showed a pair of teens with a brown-haired female in a sleazy-looking atmosphere and a black-haired male who was too horned up for his own good. Our hero was called in by Azazel to have a fun time, and Naruto went there since he had nothing else to do but sit around, laying low until the three-faction meeting was over as per Azazel's request. He found out what his clone had been up to while he was away, and apparently Azazel's idea of a fun time was watching hentai while drinking, which Naruto couldn't have guessed as all his previous experiences only pointed him towards the drinking aspect. Naruto then stated, "I don't understand how any self-respecting person would watch that shit." Azazel shouted, "Shit. Asshole. Go apologize to everyone who worked on this piece of art." Naruto replied, "Art? Come on. The whole thing is just basically two horned-up teenagers rutting, just like any casual Wednesday. Besides, I don't get it. What kind of entertainment do you get by even watching this fake? If all you wanted to see was some action, then you could have gone to a strip club or watch porn. Besides, isn't this a degradation of porn being 3D to 2D? Azazel replied, "No, it's not 2D porn. It's hentai. It's a completely new thing where the author imagines a completely new scenario of sex and incorporates it into his art. Unlike porn, there is a story, an in-depth depiction of characters along with action and comedy before they move into the business. The voice actors and animators do their best to bring the situation to life, and thus the visual art is born. And even if it was faked, don't you know that even the actresses in the porn industry fake their expressions? There is no story there too." Naruto replied back, "Yeah, but there is a chance that she may have really enjoyed it. Here, there is no such thing." Azazel and Naruto argued back and forth for a while until Azazel gave up and sighed. He then said, "My friend, it seems you still have a long way to go to truly appreciate the art that is hentai." Naruto retorted, "Sorry, but I am sure that I'll never get it." A new voice intruded, "Don't know. Girl looked like she really was enjoying it." Naruto replied back, "That was completely faked off eyes. BZZZT. Azazel, who was drinking sake from his cup, spat out and looked at the other side of Naruto to find a small girl dressed in goth clothes sitting beside him. Naruto's figure had covered her entirely before, and since the alcohol was also getting to him, Azazel didn't notice her before. But once he did, he shouted, "Ophis. Where the hell did she come from? Scratch that. How long has she been here?" Naruto calmly said, "She's been here the whole time. Didn't you see her?" Azazel sighed. He never knew what to expect from this walking ball of unpredictability. He then said, "Next time, if you are going to invite a dragon god to my house, especially one that has been organizing a terrorist organization while we are watching 2D porn, can you at least do me a favor and inform me?" Naruto then replied, "Aha. You admit that what we were watching was 2D porn?" Azazel grunted under his breath and shouted, "Can you not change the subject?" Naruto cleaned his ears and said, "Sheesh. Alright, geez. I get it already. Don't shout in my ears." Azazel calmed down and then turned towards Ophis and asked, in all seriousness, "Ophis, why are you here? What is it that you want?" Ophis didn't say anything to Azazel and turned towards Naruto and asked, "I came to talk." Naruto asked, "What is it?" Ophis said, "People of my organization plan to attack on the meeting 3 days from now." Naruto looked serious and turned toward Azazel. Azazel nodded his head and then asked Ophis, Can you tell us what their names are and how large are their forces? Ophis said, magicians and devils number 200 strong headed by on that calls herself Kateria. Azazel muttered, so it's her. Naruto asked, an acquaintance of yours? Azazel, sort of. She's one of the descendants of the original Satans that my brother created. Kateria Leviathan, a cold-hearted and cruel woman, a textbook example of the church's definition of devils. Naruto sighed. He then said, so what do we do? Azazel said, stick to the plan. I'll increase the security detail so that we'll be ready for anything. Naruto nodded his head and said, all right. Ophis then looked at Naruto and asked, help me against Great Red. Naruto sighed and then said, I already told you Ophis. I can't help you right now. My plate is already full with my own problems. Ophis made a pouting face and looked down. Naruto, who found that cute, then said, oh come on. Don't give me that face. Please. Alright, how about this, as an apology how about I take you out for some ramen? Ophis asked curiously, ramen? Naruto then replied, you never had ramen. Ophis shook her head. Naruto was shocked as if he had heard the sun had risen from the west. He then said, what kind of child hasn't had the pleasure of eating ramen? We are going out right now. I have the perfect shop to start. Azazel said, you do realize that you are speaking to a dragon god that has been here since the beginning of time and not a little girl, do you? However, Naruto didn't listen to anything that Azazel said and just marched out of the house along with Ophis while holding her hand like a child. Azazel, who watched the entire reaction, could only say this, what the fuck did just happen? With Naruto, Naruto was with Ophis having his 8th large bowl of ramen along with Ophis's own less than intimidating kid's bowl, for the shopkeeper had misjudged her to be a child. Well, you can't blame the guy when his mouth opened up like he was under a spell when he saw the amount of bowls that the little girl had eaten, even if it was a kid's meal. However, Ophis was under a different kind of spell. The spell of addiction, for she had found her poison. She was devouring bowls with so much gusto, just like Naruto was, with an expression of pure joy. To anyone that knew her, this sight would have been a miracle, for the dragon god had never shown such a face. Naruto felt like he was in cloud 9 due to the fact that he could find a friend in Ophis with regards to his favorite food. Once both of them finished their meals, Naruto paid the grateful shopkeeper, who was crying to him about how much he had been a good customer for eating his food with such joy. Naruto then left the shop with Ophis and both of them went to a park. They found a bench to settle down and enjoy the scenery of the garden. At least, Naruto did, while Ophis maintained her expressionless face. She was slightly annoyed by the fact that she could no longer have the deliciousness that was ramen but chose to remain silent. Naruto then asked, so, did you enjoy your meal? Ophis said, good. But could have eaten more. Naruto then replied while wryly smiling, well, if we had eaten any more then, it would have burdened the poor shopkeeper. Ophis asked, why? Naruto said, well, that's because he would have no more materials to make ramen. He would lose a lot of money. Ophis asked, but we paid him properly. Didn't he earn his keep? Naruto replied, yes. But we aren't the only ones visiting his shop, others do too. If they couldn't eat ramen there, then they wouldn't go there next time, as they would be dissatisfied with him. At that time, he would lose money, won't he? Ophis finally saw what Naruto was talking about and then saw a child playing on a swing and asked, what's that? Naruto said, you don't know what a swing is? Ophis shook her head. Naruto smiled and then said, why don't I show you? Just in time, the mother of the child had called him, making the kid stop playing on the swing and leave. Naruto took Ophis to the empty swing and then placed her on it. He then started to push her, making her go forwards and backwards. Naruto looked at Ophis and saw her expressionless face on it as if she didn't understand something. Ophis, who was seated on the swing, asked, I don't understand. Naruto asked, what don't you understand? Ophis replied, I don't understand why kid was happy. I am doing the same thing. Naruto chuckled and then said, for the child, the swing represents something he wants the most. The swing gives him pleasure as he can feel the wind ruffle his hair. The swing gives him excitement as he knows that there is a chance that he can fall and injure himself terribly. Beyond that, the swing gives him something he seeks the most. Ophis asked, what did he seek? Naruto replied, inner peace. When the child plays on the swing, he focuses his attention on what he plays, meditating on it, thinking about the swing all the time, removing any other form of thought in his mind, as all that remains is the swing. He ignores everything else around him as the only thought of his was on the swing. On the swing, he finds his joy. And through joy, his heart obtains the peace he seeks. For what but a joyful and serene mind will find peace? Ophis looked down and mulled on what Naruto said. She then muttered, inner peace. Naruto then said, isn't that what you seek too, don't you Ophis? Ophis lifted her head and looked inquisitively at Naruto. Naruto replied, what you seek is peace. While for the child, his swing, his toys, or his video games may be his way of obtaining peace, for you, it is your isolation and solitude. For your heart is truly at peace only when you are alone, isn't it? Ophis nodded her head. Naruto then looked at her and asked, but is that the only path that you must follow? He then added, you have set on your mind that only through isolation, will you seek peace. Only through solitude, will you have joy. But is that the only way? Ophis then asked, tell me. Then how else? Naruto replied, just like a child who has many toys around him to find inner peace through them, so do you. You have plenty of things around you that could help you find the peace you seek. But what it is, I can't possibly tell you for I don't know it myself. Only you do. Naruto then added, you are the only one that can find your inner peace Ophis. You may not have what you want in life but you can still find the inner peace you seek through the things you have at present. Ophis nodded her head and remained silent. Naruto then noticed that it was getting dark. He said, I think you have somewhere to be right now, don't you? Ophis nodded her head and said, I have to overlook my organization. I will see you later. Naruto said, you are always welcome to visit me whenever you want Ophis. Ophis then left via teleportation leaving Naruto alone in his thoughts until a collective bunch of voices interrupted him. So what was up with that thing earlier with the gothic Lolita? Don't tell me you are getting sentimental over her. Asked Kurama. Yeah. Did you listen to the life advice he gave to that reptile? Looked like something straight out of a movie, said Shikaku. I must admit that it was unusual to do what you did just now Naruto. You normally don't do that unless you feel really close with somebody. Said Jayuki. Naruto then sighed and said, don't you guys have nothing better to do than to spy on people's private issues? Kurama snorted and responded, you tell us. We are in your body. Naruto sighed. Kurama then said, you still haven't responded to my question kid. Naruto said, I don't know why but she kind of reminds me of Himawari even though she holds no resemblance to her. She looks like when Hima was still a toddler curious about the various things in the world. Kurama remained silent before saying, kid, the little one is dash. Naruto replied, she's long gone. I know, old friend. I know. You don't need to remind me about that. All the tailed beasts remained silent as the human who was their host started to remember the times he was with his daughter. Naruto then said, looking back on it. I had always been a terrible father to both my kids. Never have been there for them when they needed me the most. Naruto thought, just, let me finish, Kurama. I have done a lot of mistakes in my life. I know that there is no changing them but I still couldn't help but feel regret for what I had done. I don't know what sparked in me to say the things I just said. But I felt like saying it. It's alright kid. We understand. Everyone was silent once again before Naruto broke the silence and said, I need some time alone you guys, I'll talk with you later. He then cut the connection between him and the tailed beasts. Madatabi said, it seems as if his losing family had left him a bigger scar than we understood. Kurama nodded his head and said, yes. But we can't do anything about it now. The kid has to come out of his shell by himself. We can only hope for the best. Kokuo added, we'll do what we can to support him. However, little did they knew that this scar within Naruto will have far greater consequences than they would ever realize. For a darkness slowly started creeping in unknown to them. With Naruto, while Naruto was alone in the park ready to go home, he saw a figure come out from the darkness. Naruto looked at him and then said, so what have you found? The man turned out to be Itachi. Itachi then said, it's as you feared. We have been duped. Naruto sighed and said, just as I thought. Itachi said, what now? Naruto said, now we wait. Zetsu already won this battle. We can't do anything now. Itachi said, how did you know this would happen? Naruto said, I merely guessed. Zetsu had never made it clear what it was that he wanted when he made Ares rebel against his brethren. So I could only guess what he wanted. Unfortunately it's too late. He had already finished what he started. He distracted us by ensuing chaos within their ranks and used Ares as a scapegoat as he no longer served any purpose once his blood awakened Cronus. He then left the place with the Titan King after freeing him. Itachi said, yes. And now we have a Mad Titan King along with several other beings that the Greek gods have imprisoned working for him. Naruto asked, what's the status in the Greek court? Itachi replied, Zeus is furious about this development. He is controlling the information right now as he doesn't want the other faiths to know of this as it would only serve to portray their incompetence. Naruto said, I see. Itachi then added, he also gave me a message. He says that he's fully ready to cooperate with you and will send a representative who will help us out. Naruto said, alright. Inform me when this representative arrives. We can't let Kaguya amass more power than she already does. We need to find her before she gets any stronger either by herself or through her army. Itachi said, it shall be done. Itachi left leaving Naruto alone once again. Naruto looked at the starry sky and recalled something from his youth. Flashback haven't done this in a while. It was a momentous occasion. The entirety of the ninja world lay in celebration with the Otsutsuki threat finally over. There had been many deaths, too many lives lost, but with the defeat of the Otsutsuki, their deaths had been proven to be in vain. As his son and future daughter-in-law were celebrating, Naruto watched on silently from the side with a smile. It was then he saw a figure by him. The figure turned out to be an old man with spiky hair and dressed in white robes. It's finally done. The Otsutsuki are no longer a threat to this world, said Naruto. Yes, replied the old man. The two of them remained in silence as they witnessed the ongoing celebration. It was then Naruto sighed and said, so much death. Fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters, sons and daughters, friends, and lovers. All for the sake of peace. I only hope that this peace is everlasting. The man spoke back, don't wish for something that won't happen. I thought your life has already taught you that everlasting peace is not possible. Naruto sighed and said, I couldn't disagree with that. Naruto then turned to the old man and said, so why are you here, Lord Hagoromo? The old man who spoke to him was none other than Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of the six paths and the founder of Ninshu. He said, I've come to deliver a message. Kuoh Academy. It was a pleasant evening in Kuoh. The sun was setting in the background with an orange-like hue over the blue sky. The trees were filled with fresh green leaves, with a few birds chirping away on them before going off to slumber. The entire academy was silent as the voice of nature dominated the plain what the fuck. And of course, it gets ruined by some asshole like this who couldn't stay silent enough to let others appreciate nature at its best. Issei, the brown lovable-ish pervert, was now pointing his finger at our blonde hero who was with one of the most beautiful girl he has ever seen. With red hair that could rival his master, and a body that could be described in one word, bombshell, along with a peach-like complexion. Though she did have the curves where it was required, there was a defined muscle underneath her skin which was visible to the naked eye. But somehow, it only enhanced her beauty. However, the most unusual thing about her was that, why is there an armored girl in the school, said Issei. Sigh. It is as the pervert said, the girl he saw was wearing bronze armor on her. However, the armor she wore was such that it won't restrict her movements. Issei was now drooling at the girl in front of him as the girl in question made a rather disturbed face. Naruto, who was in his regular appearance, said, please don't go perving on my guest, Issei. Issei, who came back to his senses, became apologetic and then said while scratching his neck, sorry, force of habit. Naruto sighed and then said, why don't you go back to your club? I'm pretty sure Rias will be expecting you. Issei exclaimed and said, oh shoot. I am late. He didn't wait for a response and just ran to the club building in a hurry. Naruto sighed and then said, you'll have to forgive my young friend for his rude behavior. His brains are rather empty. The women in question smiled back and said, it's alright, but I would say his brains are already too backed up with other matters rather than being empty. Naruto, who heard that, laughed and said, yeah, I would say that too. But mannerisms aside, he's a good kid. He then added, so then, are you finding this country to your liking so far? The lady replied, so far so good. The place is clean and rich with nature. However, this is still foreign territory to me. The devils would want an explanation to my presence here if they find out who I am. After all, I am going to be teaching in this school. Naruto said, leave that to me. I'll talk to Rias for you. In the meantime, do you have a place to stay? Pira shook her head and said, I still haven't found one. Naruto replied, I'll ask Itachi to prepare one for you. The lady replied, thank you. Naruto asked, so what name are you going by? The lady said, my real one. Pira Nikos. I'm too proud to go by any other name. Naruto smiled and said, alright then Miss Nikos, it's a pleasure to cooperate with you. Pira replied, the same is extended to you Mr. Naruto. Naruto then asked, so how much of our situation do you know? Pira replied, not much. Lord Zeus only mentioned the rough detail. Naruto said, I see. Naruto then led her to the school staff building and then said, now then. Why don't you go settle all the required paperwork and get some rest afterward? We can talk later tonight. You know the place, don't you? Pira nodded her head and gave him a smile. Naruto looked at her leaving figure going into the building. Kurama said, quit staring at her ass kid. We've got work to do. Naruto blushed and retorted, I wasn't staring at her ass, Kurama. Kurama said, kid, who are you trying to lie to? I am in your head, and right now your head is saying that it's taking a break and your dick is the one that's doing the thinking. Naruto shouted in his mind, I am not horny, asshole. Kurama replied, yes you are and I'm not the only one that thinks so. Don't you agree Jayuki, Sandrat? I agree replied the eight-tailed beast. His dick is taking the shots right now. And don't call me Sandrat, rabbit ears, replied Shukaku. Naruto grew a tick mark over his head and said, do you guys want part 3 of Beast Love? Once he said that everyone became silent and then said, we are sorry for besmirching your prestigious name, our lord. You are not thinking with your dick. Oh great and generous lord. Please don't play that movie ever again. The tailed beasts right now were traumatized with Naruto's frightening imagination. They never want to see another one of those horrid movies for they feared that more than vomiting at the sight, they will somehow come to like it and will result in something which should be taboo, according to them. Their fear for the movie was like that of a straight man for gay porn or gayness in itself. Naruto, satisfied with the answer that the tailed beasts gave him, told them went to work on the gardens. The 3-faction meeting will occur 2 days later. Azazel had asked him to stay out of town for a few days so that things will go smoothly when the meeting takes place. Naruto wasn't lying when he said they will consider that, as he thought that now may have been a good time to visit Yasaka and Kunu, relax in Kyoto for a while and then return back to town. But he decided against it as he felt that Kyoto will become the epic entree for an upcoming disaster, thus it would be bad news if he left now. And now that plan was completely obliterated as Pira had arrived at the right moment. Naruto wasn't prepared for her arrival, as he thought that she would come only after the 3-faction meeting. By then, things would have cooled down a little bit for Azazel to break the news of the threat they were facing. However, Zeus wasn't patient enough and sent her here as soon as he could. This changed a lot of things for him. He sighed and thought, why do things always have to be so difficult? He worked for a while in the evening before completing his job. Once he was done, he took a shower in his room and changed to some casual clothes. He went outside of his room, to one of his hidden spots in the school. He sat down on the grassy ground in silence as he closed his eyes and started to gather natural energy. As he did that, the small birds gathered around him and began to get seated around him, attracted to the warm feeling he exuded. As Naruto went into that meditative state, he started to phase out all other physical things while concentrating on purifying the energies around him as he absorbed and released. It required a lot of concentration on his end as he was constantly ignoring impure and dark intentions from the nature around him. It had been a while that he was this immersed within that he didn't notice the presence approaching him. As he was getting done with purifying the region and slowly opening his eyes to the dimming light of the world, he felt a pair of hands above them, covering the already dim light of the setting sun. A playful voice whispered in his ear, tickling them as it was heard, "Guess who?" Naruto smiled and then said, "You are already too old to play this game, Subasa." His eyes were uncovered, but as soon as his eyes saw light, he felt a kick to his nuts. He yelped in pain, "Youch! Why the hell did you do that?" Subasa looked angry and said, "That's for calling me old." Naruto crouched in the pain as he sat down on his stomach and then said, "Have you any idea how painful it is to be kicked in the balls?" Subasa gave an evil glare and said, "No, I don't, but I won't mind performing another demonstration for me to understand better." Naruto immediately closed his complaining mouth and just said, "Please forgive me, mistress. Don't kick me in the balls again." Subasa, who heard a satisfactory response, smiled and then said, "That depends. Are you willing to compensate me for the grievance you caused? Naruto sighed and asked, what do you want? And no, for the last time, I am not giving you any babies. Subasa gave him a big smile and said, then bring me on a date. Naruto looked at her and then said, you know that I already said that I need. Subasa said, time? You can have all the time you need. Already set my eyes on you and I am not going to give up just yet. Besides, a date will help clear things up for you, won't it? Naruto went silent for a while to think on her words. He then said, fine. You win. We can go on a date. Subasa cheered, yes. Only after I have finished my immediate business, said Naruto. Subasa, who heard that, pouted and then said, here, I thought you'll take me on a date now. Naruto replied while wryly smiling, I'm kind of busy right now. Leaving that aside, what brings you here? Subasa said, no reason. Just visiting. Also delivery. Naruto asked, delivery? Subasa then took out an envelope and handed it over to Naruto. Naruto read the addressee as his own. He tore open the envelope and found letter inside it. Subasa smiled and said, Lady Yasaka wanted me to pass this letter to you. Said it's pretty important. Naruto took the letter and started reading it. Once he went through the contents, he folded the letter and kept it in his breast pocket. Subasa then asked, so what did it say? Naruto replied, apparently there is a big shot willing to speak to me. Someone by the name of Great Ancestor. Subasa, who heard that, was shocked and then said, what else did it say? Naruto replied, nothing much, just that she and Kunu miss my company and that they wish to see me. Why? What's so important about this Great Ancestor? Subasa replied, what's so great about him? He's the Great Ancestor, for goodness sakes. However, Naruto was still confused. Subasa calmed down and then said, the Great Ancestor is one of the first yokai there existed. He was the one that gave the concept of senjutsu and yujutsu to the yokai faction. Naruto was impressed. But it begged one question, if he's so important, then why is it that I am hearing about him only now? Why wasn't he there during the rebellion? Subasa stated, the Great Ancestor had retired a long time ago. We don't know the exact reason, but many state that he was quite tired of the never-ending conflict between the different factions and thus decided to stay his hand in these matters. Naruto understood what she was on about. He asked, then why does he wish to speak with me? Subasa said, how the hell should I know? Are you sure there is nothing else mentioned in the letter? Naruto replied, last I checked my eyes were not blind. So I am sure. Subasa sighed at the retort and then said, whatever his reasons may be, you need to visit him. The ancestor may be uninvolved with the affairs of the world, but all yokai, regardless of the faction they belong to, respect his word. If you don't meet up with him, you'll be insulting the entire yokai race. Naruto understood what Subasa was talking about and then nodded his head. He then said, give a message to Yasaka that I'll come by Kyoto after this week. Subasa asked, why? Naruto said, I've a feeling that something is about to go wrong in a few days. If necessary, I may need to intervene. Subasa looked at Naruto and then said, I'll tell her what you said. Do you want to add something else? Naruto then thought of something before an imaginary light bulb went up above his head. He then took out a scroll and passed it on to Subasa and said, give this to Kunu. Tell her that it's a present from me. She'll know what to do. Subasa took the scroll from Naruto and then said, alright then. I am going to go ahead and check on my daughter. Remember, you owe me a date. Naruto said, yeah. Take care. Subasa then quickly went towards Naruto and gave him a quick kiss on his lips. She then broke out of the kiss and then said, that's for good luck. Be careful. Naruto, who was kissed, was still stunned. He didn't know how to respond to the sudden action of affection and just stood dumb like a log. Subasa didn't wait for him to respond and just left while giving him a huge grin. However, what he heard next brought him out of his stupor. She muttered, with this, I am one step ahead of her. Wait, what? Asked Naruto. Subasa said, nothing. I am off now. See ya. She then disappeared in front of Naruto as he just stood there thinking, why was she so aggressive now? Kurama, who was within him, said, what are you talking about, kid? She's always have been aggressive. Yeah. But something felt off about that kiss. It was as if she was marking me. Maybe you are just reading too much into it, kid. Yeah, forget it. But I am curious about this Great Ancestor. I wonder what his intention is. Something time will answer. Let's focus on the present now. Yeah. We need to know what goes on in this meeting. Azazel won't be of any help here as he said that the three factions make sure to take all measures to prevent spyware. We can use surveillance seals for that. All we need is a place to hide. I'm pretty sure that they'll check the buildings thoroughly for the meeting. We won't be needing surveillance seals. What do you have in mind? The meeting will mostly take place in the conference room. So, Naruto didn't say anything and went towards the building. He then pressed on a brick on the wall resulting a loud chink the wall by the side then gave passage to a hidden way. Naruto said, while you were still asleep from our travel to this world, I had constructed some passages and hidden rooms within the school building so that they'll come in handy one day. Nice one, kid. But tell me, what's the real reason for you to construct this? Naruto blushed and looked away. He then said, I thought that it will come in handy whenever I was feeling bored and decided to prank on people. Kurama didn't say anything and just continued to give Naruto a judgmental look for his childish behavior. However, who could blame him? The prankster side of him hadn't disappeared even after all those years, and there were times one couldn't suppress the feeling of one's boiling blood to just have some fun. Naruto closed the hidden door and then directly left the school grounds. He went towards Itachi's office/residence. It was a 3-story building with the middle one being his investigation center. Naruto whistled at the size of the place once he entered as he saw a couple of employees busy attending calls from various people in different languages in their 5x3 square metered cubicles. He saw Itachi wearing a suit and tie and said, look at this place. You really hit it off with this private investigation business, haven't you? Itachi replied, yeah. The company has gained a good reputation and due to the work nature policy I drafted. I can't handle all requests myself. That's why I hired a bunch of other investigators to be a part of the company. Most of them are still upstarts though. Their payment is dependent on the custom we earn from our clients. Basically they get a 70% share while we get 30% for our referral. Naruto said, good idea. Helps you keep yourself free while still earning some amount of cash. Itachi replied, enough to help pay the bills and my expenses. He then added, let's go back to my office. Miss Nikos is waiting for us there. Naruto nodded his head as the pair of them crossed the receptionist's desk and went across to a corner room that was Itachi's office. Once he entered, he saw various files on the desk and Pira being seated in one of the chairs. Once Itachi entered the room, he closed the door and locked it. He then placed a silencing seal on the door. Naruto then said, now that we are free to talk, can you tell me what you have found? Itachi replied, nothing substantial as of yet. We have no trace of the titans or the other monsters and minor gods that Zetsu took along with him. It's as if they disappeared into thin air. Pira replied, then that must mean that they aren't in this world. Itachi nodded his head and said, I believe so too. I think they may be holed up somewhere in the dimensional gap along with the Chaos Brigade. Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, why do you say that? Why not the underworld? Why would the Chaos Brigade be involved in this? Pira asked, Chaos Brigade. Naruto replied, a terrorist organization under the dragon god of infinity, Ophis. I'll tell about them later. Itachi said, the Chaos Brigade seems to operate by traveling in the dimensional gap with the help of Ophis's blessing. The underworld would be too conspicuous for them to hide due to their numbers, which can be detected by the devils or any other life form. But the dimensional gap isn't the same as the place is a death trap for those who don't have or those who aren't without Ophis's blessing. If there's any place for them to hide, free from harm, then it's there. Pira said, then how can we infiltrate the place? Itachi said, fortunately, we already have someone who part F their ranks. Naruto replied, who? Itachi said, a client of mine who owes me a favor. I could call it in for this information and arrange a meeting for you. Naruto replied, all right. Contact him and ask him to meet us once he obtains something useful. Itachi replied, it shall be done. Naruto then said, in the meantime, I believe it's best if I informed Miss Pira on what's going on down here in full detail if she's going to be helping us. Pira, who had been silent all this time, nodded her head and said, yes please. And please start with the Chaos Brigade. I want to know everything. Naruto said, and so you shall. He then started off and told Pira about everything that was going on, including who he and Itachi were and what kind of threat they were facing. 2 days later at the 3-faction summit, Surtsk said, I thank you all for coming here. It is so heartening to see that there is a chance for the current leaders of the three factions are able to assemble here, in one room without giving way to conflict. It gives me a hope that the three of us may yet achieve peace and live in a time of prosperity. Michael replied, I agree with you, Lord Xerxes. It is a step forward for all of us. Azazel said in a lazy manner, well, while it is nice to hear such words, how about we come down to business? Words can be sweet to hear, but it all comes down to being it in action. Xerxes said, I agree. Let us start off then. As you may know, for a while the meeting was going on within the conference room, unknown to the faction leaders or their guards. A sneaky little fox was eavesdropping on them in one of the hidden rooms by the side. I have to admit, it was a good idea for you to build this pathway. Said Kurama, thank you. But I got a problem. What's with the getup? You got a problem with what I am wearing, Fuzzbutt? As to what Naruto was wearing. Well, he was in his real, slim, and neat appearance and was wearing a classy purple tuxedo with an orange vest underneath and a neat purple bow tie. You have good style, but is it really necessary? If I am going to battle, then I am doing it in style. Besides, I wanted to try something different from my usual outfit. It's your funeral. Alright Sush, here comes Rias and her peerage. As he said that, Rias and her peerage minus Konako entered the room. Naruto saw that the peerage looked rather tense when they were there. He then started hearing the explanation/report of the crocodile incident with the conclusion Azazel had cooked up. Xerxes said, well, fallen governor, what would you have to answer for that? Azazel said, well, what can I say? One of my subordinates was being naughty. Though how about we talk down to what we really came here for? Michael and Xerxes looked at him skeptically. Azazel then said, we came here for a peace talk, didn't we? That's the purpose of this summit, isn't it? Xerxes said, yes. It is as you say. Though you still got to answer for the crimes of your subordinate. Azazel replied, well, I got Vala here to take care of it, didn't I? Besides, apart from surface harm, there was no true damage, was there? Sirafal shouted, why you? Azazel then replied, all right, calm down, Lady Leviathan. My words may have been a bit irresponsible, but what I say is the truth. But since Crocodile was my subordinate before he rebelled and tried to inflict harm on the devils, as his leader I must take some amount of responsibility. So I'll share some results of my research that I've been doing on sacred gears. Naruto thought, good. This way they can collectively become strong. Michael then added, is the condition satisfactory to you, Lord Xerxes? Xerxes sighed and then said, it is. As Azazel said, there was no real damage conducted onto my sister and her peerage. This is as far as we could get out of it, I believe. Azazel then said, so we are all in agreement to move on. Yes? Good. So then, now that the leaders agree to this peace treaty, that leaves only the consent of the two dragon emperors here. Hey. Red Dragon Emperor. Issei said, what? Azazel then said, what is your opinion on this? What is it that you want? Issei said, why ask me? I am just servant. Azazel then added, that's true, but you are also the wielder of the boosted gear, which means that you are destined to fight the one by my side. Vala said, I have no interest what goes on between the three factions. If it's peace you want, so be it. All I want is to fight a strong opponent. Issei then added, I still don't know, but I guess if I have to go for it, I would say peace. Azazel nodded, alright then. With this, I believe the goal of the conference has been reached. Xerxes nodded, yes. Let there be peace between us. Michael nodded his head, I agree to the peace treaty. Naruto looked on and thought, good. Things are going good. It was at that time that everyone in the room felt something. Naruto saw that everyone except Rias, Issei, Sana, Saji, Irina, Zenovia, and the rest of the faction leaders, were frozen solid. Sirafal said, it seems time has been frozen. Xerxes replied, yes. We have some unwanted guests in our presence. Azazel added, so they used the forbidden Baylor view to freeze time and then attack her. Michael asked, you speak as if you were already expecting this attack. Azazel said, I got information that a certain terrorist group will be attacking us now. They call themselves the Chaos Brigade. Michael asked, but how did these terrorists know of the place and time of the meeting, much less penetrate the barrier we set up without our knowledge? Azazel then turned towards Vala and asked, yes, why don't you tell them in detail, Vala? Vala was stunned and then smiled, so it seems you already knew. Azazel replied, Well, I had my suspicions for a while. That's why I kept you close. Vala tried to move away but Zenovia and Irina moved in and held their swords to his neck. Move a muscle and your head will roll off, said Zenovia. Vala remained in the same position. Xerxes asked, why do you side with the terrorist organization if you are not bothered about the three faction? Vala spoke, my words still hold. All I care for is a good fight to prove my strength. The organization is just a means to an end. I personally don't want this but a few others disagree. Azazel said, a few others like Kateria Leviathan. Just as he said that an explosion happened in the room and broke open to the outside to reveal a bespectacled woman with a hot body. My, it seems we are expected. That you are Kateria, said Azazel. Who was it that ratted us out? Never mind, it doesn't matter now anyway, said Kateria. It was then a new voice added from behind, why are we still waiting? Let's just finish them and be done with it. Naruto looked at who was it that interrupted her and was stunned. It can't be. Seems Zetsu has been hiding things more than we thought. To think that he would appear, said Kurama. The one that appeared had a blue shark-like skin and a huge sword behind him. He wore black clothes with red cloud patterns. His eyes were dark black with purple pupils. Same. And he somehow has his sword. Seems as if Zetsu obtained all the 7 ninja swords if anything to go by. However, another voice interrupted them, revived again. Why does it seem as if that everyone is fond of the reanimation jutsu? You tell me, second Tsuchikage. The one that appeared beside him was the second Tsuchikage with his bandaged appearance and same eyes as the one before him. Azazel asked, never heard of you two before? Kisame said, I doubt it. It would be weird of you to hear of us, we are in a strange world. Though it isn't too late of introductions, is it? The names dash, however a voice interrupted him before he could finish, Kisame Hoshigake and Lord Mew. It's been a while. Everyone turned back to find Naruto standing behind them and smiling. Azazel replied, why do you always not follow the plan? Naruto replied, had to improvise. Everyone except Xerxes and Azazel were confused at the newcomer. Sirafal asked, I'm sorry but who are you again? Naruto grinned and said, the name is Naruto Uzumaki, Kuoh Academy's resident gardener and all-around best friend. Nice to meet ya. What is life but a culmination of all the experiences an individual had in the time he/she/it was active, in the time he/she/it was still breathing, in the time he/she/it/ were still alive. The experience that each individual has or had are unique and singular, but they are similar with many other. What is my point in saying all this? Nothing, just to know where we are right now. So where were we? Naruto asked, so what name are you going by? The lady said, my real one. Pira Nikos. I'm too proud to go by any other name. Naruto smiled and said, alright then Miss Nikos, it's a pleasure to cooperate with you. Pira replied, the same is extended to you Mr. Naruto. Guess who? Naruto smiled and then said, you are already too old to play this game Subasa. Naruto replied, apparently there is a big shot willing to speak to me. Someone by the name of Great Ancestor. Subasa, who heard that, was shocked and then said, what else did it say? Naruto then said, now that we are free to talk, can you tell me what you have found? Itachi replied, nothing substantial as of yet. We have no trace of the titans or the other monsters and minor gods that Zetsu took along with him. It's as if they disappeared into thin air. Xerxes said, I thank you all for coming here. It is so heartening to see that there is a chance for the current leaders of the three factions are able to assemble here, in one room without giving way to conflict. It gives me a hope that the three of us may yet achieve peace and live in a time of prosperity. Why are we still waiting? Let's just finish them and be done with it. Naruto looked at who was it that interrupted her and was stunned. It can't be. Seems Zetsu has been hiding things more than we thought. To think that he would appear, said Kurama, Kisame Hoshigake and Lord Mew. It's been a while. Everyone turned back to find Naruto standing behind them and smiling. Azazel replied, why do you always not follow the plan? Naruto replied, had to improvise. Everyone except Xerxes and Azazel were confused at the newcomer. Sirafal asked, I'm sorry but who are you again? Naruto grinned and said, the name is Naruto Uzumaki, Kuoh Academy's resident gardener and all-around best friend. Nice to meet ya. And here we are, at the current moment. The moment where one of our more gullible, impressible, and more easily agitated friend asking, nay, shouting one question, what the hell are you doing here? No, the question is, Who the hell are you? You aren't the Naruto I know, shouted Saji. Naruto looked back to notice that Saji was standing along with a confused Sana. Naruto never spoke much to Sana as the school help. He reported only to the principal and not anyone else, but he had some small talk with her, but he knew that she was somehow in cahoots with Rias and thus avoided her most of the time. Though, Saji was a different case as Naruto had interacted with him a lot of times on a lot of different issues. Naruto's impression of him was not that bad as he knew that Saji was a kind soul, just that he had really low self-esteem and had to sometimes hear the sound of his own voice to get in some confidence into that system. Right now though was different as both Saji and Sana were confused at the presence of Naruto. Naruto remembered that they were still unaware of his identity as Rias hadn't yet disclosed about him to the others in lieu of her promise to him. He smiled and then said, "Right now isn't the time to talk, Saji. I promise to give a proper explanation later on." "What in the world do you mean? What is going on here?" Saji was not satisfied with that answer and wanted to pursue the matter but became silent when he got a signal from Sana. Surtsk then added, "You must be the one that Grafia informed me about." "You have my thanks for taking care of my sister." Naruto replied, "Not a problem." Now, are you guys already forgetting us?" said Kisame. Naruto then looked at him and muttered, "Kisame. Well, look who it is, it's the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. It seems you have grown a lot since I last saw you, didn't you, brat?" said Kisame taking out Sameha. Naruto looked at Kisame and said, "It has been a few decades, and you just look as fishy as ever." Coo, and you look younger than I thought you would," said Kisame. Mew, who then saw Naruto, said, "You're that kid from that time, the one who was with that brat Onaki?" "Yes, Lord Mew." Naruto Uzumaki, at your service. "I am sorry for allowing you to be reanimated once again." Mew shook his head and then said, "You are not to blame. Though the situation this time feels different." Kisame then said, "Kid, listen up. You are in for a lot of trouble." Naruto saw that Kisame was ready to give up some information, but Kateria interrupted and then said, "Are you two forgetting why you were even brought here? Get to work." She then showed them a seal which made them stop moving naturally. They then looked at Naruto and started to get ready for attacking. Naruto then said, "Azazel, take care of that lady over there and I'll take care of these two." Azazel said, "All right." Surtsk then added, "Let me assist you in taking care of the newcomers." Naruto nodded his head and said, "All right, please stand ready to protect those behind us. I'll move in as I am most familiar with their fighting style." Surtsk nodded his head and then moved back. Naruto then heard Kurama say, "Naruto, did you see that seal?" "Yeah. She used that to control those two. I think it's a modified version of the seal that Kabuto used on the reanimation during the Great War. However, they feel stronger now, like their strengths are increased. We can analyze later. First we need to wear these two down and seal them up quick." Naruto said, "Yeah. Let's sync. We'll go with base mode, we can't go all out when the others are still frozen in time. Hopefully, the clone I sent after Rias takes care of this problem." Naruto entered the base Kyuubi mode with a golden flame-like coat covering his entire being. Surtsk noticed a familiar feeling from Naruto when he entered that mode and gauged the power level. It was then he realized, so it was him. He looked at Sirafal, who nodded her head. He then looked over at Michael and Gabriel, who didn't wear any expression on their face. He only assumed that they figured it out too and thus remained silent. He thought, praise our luck that he's on our side for now. Meanwhile Naruto looked at his opponents. Both were battle ready but didn't make a single move. Naruto knew that they were waiting for an opening. They remained like that until Kisame moved forward and tried to slash Naruto with Sameha horizontally. "Too easy," shouted Naruto and dodged the attack by jumping above and then gave a counter punch once he landed. However, the moment he punched Kisame, it turned into a log of wood. He thought, substitution. He then looked at the side to find Kisame attack him once again. However, Naruto moved away just in time before Sameha touched him. He then sensed a presence behind him. Mew shouted, "Particle style, detachment of the primitive world." Naruto recognized the technique and immediately disappeared from there using his speed, dodging it narrowly. Everything the ray of light from the dust release touched, disintegrated into nothing. Naruto thought, that was a close one. Better be more careful now. He then saw that Kisame weaving hand signs. Naruto recognized the technique and then started a counter, water style, water shockwave. Earth style, mud wall. An earthen wall arose from the ground, stopping the shockwave created by Kisame. However, as soon as the jutsu was stopped, Kisame appeared behind him and started attacking him. Naruto thought, they're much faster than before. It seems that whoever is using the reanimation jutsu has modified their bodies to be stronger than before, said Kurama. Naruto mentally agreed with Kurama's statement and then saw that Mew was flying around and preparing for another disintegration ray. Naruto thought, well, shit. Shikamaru, you're right, life's really a drag, old friend. Why do I need to face old enemies once more? Save your pitiful lament until the fight's over, said Kurama. Yeah. With Rias and Issei, both Rias and Issei made their way towards Gasper, who was held by the Chaos Brigade. They did so by using a technique called castling that allowed Rias to switch her position with an unused rook she kept in the club room. They arrived there and saw that Konako and Gasper being held by a group of female magicians where Konako was unconscious. Issei shouted, Gasper. Konako. One of the female magicians stepped forward and said, not another step from you two, fiends, or your friends' heads shall roll. Rias then said, unhand them at once. And I shall consider sparing your lives. The magician said, I am sorry, but I don't do deals with devils. You are going to stay there silently in that corner over there while we finish our business here. Gasper, who retained his consciousness, then said while crying, Rias, Issei. It's best if you kill me, it would be for the best if I die. Issei shouted, don't talk like that. Gasper said, it's over for me. If you don't kill me, you are going to die. I have only been a burden to you for as long as I remember. Rias then sighed and said, you were never a burden, Gasper. You are my bishop and a part of my family. Always have been and always will be. Gasper asked, really? The magician said, enough of this nonsense. Rias smiled while nodding her head while ignoring the magician, and then added on with conviction, yes, so don't be afraid and let loose. I'll scold you for a while and then I'll hold you and never let go. Gasper then stopped the tears in his eyes and said, I'll try, do be afraid, Gasper, everyone is Rias, Kiba, Acre. Gasper nodded and said, wah, that's a lot of pressure, Issei. But I won't let you down. Gasper then unleashed his powers and broke free from the binding magic of the magicians, freeing both himself and Konako from their grasp. He then blew them apart with a extinction ray. Issei shouted, whoa. You weren't kidding when you said that he was powerful. Damn. That's a lot of damage. Gasper then collapsed on the ground as he cancelled the time-freezing effect of the Forbidden Baylor View, releasing the guards and the security detail from their imprisonment. Rias went forward towards Gasper and said, good work, Gasper, you did a good job. Gasper said, thanks, Rias. Konako then added, sorry, if it weren't for me. Rias said, don't blame yourself, Konako. You were taken by surprise. Konako nodded her head and then noticed something. She said, something's coming. Rias and Issei went into alert as she said that. They then heard a voice, my, detected already at Ryu Asia. Rias looked surprised at first but retained her composure. Issei then asked, hey. Who the hell are you, placing our hopes on you? We know you can do it. It was then they saw a man with silver hair appear at the location. They saw that the person was wearing black robes with red clouds imprinted on it and that he had a huge red triple-blade scythe. However, the most important detail of him were his dark eyes with purple pupils. Rias felt a bad vibe coming off of him. Konako added, I can sense chakra from him. Huge amount. Is that how you ask your superior for his name, you stinking brat? Go back to your mama and learn some manners. Said the man. Issei said, why you? Rias stopped him and then said, would you mind leaving us be? We have somewhere else to be at. The man said, that's not possible, little girl, as you see, I am really up for some blood since I haven't shown my devotion to Lord Jashin in a very long time. He then looked at the crowd in front of him and said, and the way I see it, I can give him 4 sacrifices in asking his forgiveness for not being regular with my rituals. Yes, that sounds good. Gasper shouted, that man is really scary. Issei said, he's nuts. Rias agreed. She then said, sorry, but we don't plan on becoming your sacrifices just yet. We'll be on our way now. She then started to run towards Surtsk but was blocked by the man. He said, did I ever tell you you had a choice? He shrieked and then tried to slice Rias. Rias evaded the attack and then moved away. The pair of them fought for a bit with some assistance from Issei, but the man didn't take any damage at all while Rias was slightly exhausted but wasn't cut by his scythe. Rias said, "Careful. He can regenerate all his wounds fast. So our only option is to kill him quick." Issei, "I need a power-up." Issei, who boosted up, said, "Right. Transfer. Boosted gear, boosted gift. Transfer." Rias then got the energy from Issei, who touched her back. Rias said, "Thanks Issei." She approached him as he was ready to cut her, but she then gave a feint and stepped back before saying, "Sorry mister, but you have to go now." Destructive wave. A huge wave of destruction then was fired at Haydn, which covered his entire being, and since it was at point blank, he couldn't dodge it. The kill was confirmed as they saw the top half of his body was gone. That takes care of him. As all four of them turned back to move on, they heard the voice again. "What? Why are you guys leaving already? This party just got started." Issei saw him and was flabbergasted at the sight. They saw the man getting revived with his body regenerating like it was nothing, with no damage to his body or chakra at all. Issei said, No way. How the hell are you still alive? You are supposed to be dead." Konako added, "Monster." Gasper said, "Scary, scary, scary." Rias was too shocked for words but soon regained her composure once again. Issei then asked, "Who are you?" "No, what the hell are you?" The man then smiled and said, "Oh, the name's Haydn. And I am the one who's going to take your lives." He then moved fast towards the group. Rias put up a barrier, but Haydn slashed it with his scythe that it broke upon impact. He then said, "Now, give me your blood." As he was about to slash Rias with his scythe, he was blown away by a gust of wind that hit him along with some Kunu. "Now, why don't you leave these kids alone and play with someone your own size, freak?" The four devils saw who their rescuer was, and three of them recognized him, Naruto. Naruto smiled and then said, "Sorry for being late kids, traffic was a little heavy." Haydn then got up and said, "Who the hell dash? Wait, why do you seem familiar?" Naruto sighed and said, "Well, we never met before, so you wouldn't recognize who I am anyway." Haydn said, "Doesn't matter. You are going to be a blood sacrifice just like the rest of those four brats over there." Naruto shook his head and said, "Sorry, but that won't happen." He then teleported near Haydn with one of the Kunu he launched earlier. Naruto came near Haydn and then said, "I am in no mood to play." Haydn recognized the Kunu and paled. He said, "You're the fourth Hokage. But how? Aren't you supposed to be dead?" Naruto shook his head, "Thanks for the compliment, but I am not the fourth Hokage. I am his son, Naruto Uzumaki." Haydn tried to move away but found out he couldn't. He then shouted, "What the hell did you do to me?" Naruto said, "It's a restraining seal specially designed by yours truly. You wouldn't be able to move until and unless I deem it so." Haydn then finally recognized him and said, "Naruto Uzumaki? I see. You're the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, aren't you?" Rias thought, "Kyuubi? What does Naruto got to do with the yokai?" Issei thought, "What's a Jinchuriki?" Naruto then said, "Well, guess you finally realized, huh? All those years under the Nara clan compound did some good to you finally. From what I heard from Shikamaru, you couldn't even remember the names of half the people you killed, let alone the living." Haydn burst out swearing when he heard the word Shikamaru and then said, "Damn it. Damn you. I am not going to be trapped like this. Not again. I have not been released from that slow decaying state, from all those years of hunger and thirst just to be trapped like this. Again. Never. Fuck. 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 Fuck you. Fuck your village. Fuck that pineapple-haired puss dash." Naruto then put a gag on him and said, "All right, shut your trap. Don't you see that there are kids watching you?" He then turned towards the said kids who were looking at him in surprise. Naruto asked, "What?" Rias wanted to ask, "How is it that you always appear out of nowhere and somehow save us whenever we are in a pickle, like a cliché movie sequence by beating an opponent who is seemingly immortal and has infinite energy reserves without even breaking a sweat?" However, Rias knew better than to complain to her savior and thus sighed. She said, "Nothing, we need to move quickly, the others need our help." Naruto said, "Oh, that won't be necessary. The boss taking care of it right now." Rias asked, "Boss?" It was at that moment all of them heard a huge explosion near Surtsuka's place. Rias then saw a huge flaming blue cat with two tails. Naruto smiled, "Told you, that the boss will take care of it." With the original, the three shinobi were fighting each other intensely. But none of them were nowhere near exhausted. It was at that time Naruto noticed that time started resuming again and the security detail for the three factions started moving. Naruto thought, finally, we can go all out now that everyone's out of it. Yeah, let's get this show on the road. Naruto thought, yep, let's go big. As they were about to sync properly, they were rudely interrupted by one of the other tenants within Naruto. Hold up. How long are you gonna hog all the fun? I wanna fight too, shouted Shukaku. Shut up Sandrat. This isn't a game, said Kurama. I have to agree with Shukaku here Kurama, it is kind of unfair to always have a battle. We too are bored over here and need a good workout said Son Goku. Yeah, even I am getting bored too, said Seiken. Well then, who'll go? Asked Kokuo. It would be me for sure, said Shukaku. No me, shouted the excited Son Goku. I'm sorry, have you guys finished arguing? If you haven't forgotten, we are in the middle of a situation here. He's right, how about we decide by drawing lots, asked Komei. Alright. Let's draw lots, said Shukaku. Fine. I am gonna beat you silly sandrat, said Kurama. What was that you overgrown rabbit, shouted Shukaku moth fu dash. It. You guys decide on who's coming, I am going be using Madatabi's chakra. Madatabi, you know what to do. Right, said Madatabi and shared her chakra with him. As she said that, Naruto started obtaining Madatabi's chakra and this time his body turned into that of a huge blue cat with flames emerging from all over him. Naruto in Madatabi form then created a Bijudama and fired it at the pair and the magician army behind them. The pair of shinobi dodged it but the same couldn't be said about the magicians behind them as all of them disintegrated from the Bijudama. It's so nice to be outside once again. Surtsk who saw that said out loud, remarkable. Kiba said, it's getting a little hot here. Zenovia nodded her head and agreed. Sirafal just looked on while being mesmerized by the sight of the huge blue cat. Azazel laughed, well, that's a new one. Kateria who was fighting Azazel saw the beast and said, an unprecedented event, but still it's not that powerful. Azazel laughed further inciting question from Kateria, why are you laughing fallen governor? Azazel said, I am just laughing at your naivete. Know this Kateria, power isn't the only detail that decides a battle. It involves skills too. Kateria then retorted, then, shall we put it to the test, which is better, power or skill? What say you, fallen governor? Azazel said, I'm game. I only hope that you don't die before I get started. Kateria said, you'll pay for that insult. As the pair of devil and fallen battled, another battle had been going on between Kisame and Mew against Naruto in the two-tailed beast form. Naruto thought, this isn't working. We need to seal them up quickly before this gets even more complicated. Madatabi then said, I know of a sealing technique that you can use but you need to be near them when you use it. Alright then, let's go. Naruto then charged towards the pair of shinobi while releasing enough heat to turn all things near him into ash. The two pair of shinobi moved away from him and targeted him with long-range techniques. Naruto went closer and closer until he purposely left an opening for them to exploit while preparing a tailed beast bomb at them as he cornered them. Mew and Kisame fell for it and moved forward to take that chance and in that time Madatabi shouted, alright, now Naruto. Naruto then shouted, fire style, ash ceiling. As he said that the area nearby turned to ash and then immediately stuck onto the unguarded shinobi. They struggled to move but couldn't. A few seconds later, all of their body had been covered in ash. Naruto said, is it done? Madatabi nodded her head and said, yes, that ash will have sealed them up good. Naruto said, good. He then released the form as he returned to his original self. He saw that Azazel had finished taking care of his opponent as did the security detail who took care of the rest of the magicians. He finally took a moment to look around and realized something. But by then, it was too late. Sirtsk approached him and then said, I thank you dash, is something the matter? Naruto said in anguish, my garden, my beautiful green garden that I have maintained for so long. What have I done? Yep, in his moment of excitement and seriousness, he forgot about the rest of the surroundings. It was then that he realized that he turned the garden to ash when he used Madatabi. Surtsk wryly smiled and said, you don't need to worry about that, I'll take it on myself and the others to restore everything back to how it once was. Naruto looked like he saw a glimmer of hope as he said, really? Surtsk's head as Naruto sighed relief. Kurama said, well, glad that's finally over. Naruto thought, yeah. But why do I get the feeling that? It's when a sudden boom was heard. Naruto immediately turned to find that Volley had somehow escaped his bindings. He shouted, "You're not going anywhere, Volley." He then moved towards him with the intent of capturing him again, but was blocked by a piece of wood that suddenly sprouted from the ground. Naruto then saw the person he had been looking for, Zetsu. "So you're the one that freed him?" Zetsu replied, "It's been a while, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto saw that Sirafal was injured and leaned on Graphia's shoulders while a wound was present on her stomach. Kiba, Asia, Irina, and Zenovia also laid by the side injured, but they were only scratches. He figured that he must have taken Sirafal by surprise. Surtsks, who saw that, shouted, "Graphia! Sirafal! We're all right, Surtsks." "Bastard caught us by surprise," said Sirafal. Naruto thought, how in the world couldn't we sense his presence when he's nearby? Kurama said, "There are a lot of people with negative intent here, so it would be hard to find him if you aren't specifically looking for him." Zetsu then said, "I am sorry for the disturbance I caused, but I need the white one here. He's too crucial for us to lose." Naruto asked, "Why are you even here? What are you and Kaguya planning?" Zetsu said, "What do you think? I am here to only serve my mother. As for what she's planning, I don't know, but it no longer involves you, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto said, "What the hell do you mean?" Issei and Rias, who heard the explosion, returned back and shouted, "Master! We came here as soon as we heard the explosion. Your clone said that you will know." Naruto asked, "My clone?" It was then pieces of information came to him from the clone he sent after Issei and Rias. He got the information he was looking for from the clone that dispelled after it interrogated Haydn. Zetsu noticed the change in expression in Naruto and said, "So you have realized?" Naruto said, "You bastard. You just wanted to flush me out, didn't you? What the hell do you want from me?" Zetsu said, "Nothing, I no longer need anything from you. I already got what I wanted anyway." He then started to move underground and said, "You would be happy to know that Mother no longer has no need for you and that she's well on her way to a perfect recovery. I would want to speak more, but time's wasting. Ta-ta." Sirafal, who recovered from her injury, said, "Oh no you don't, you stinking villain." She tried to freeze him, but she was too late as Zetsu had already left underground. Volley, who looked on from above, then said, "It's time I take my leave too." Issei said, "What the hell, Volley? Why are you even doing this?" Volley said, "What do you think? Why do you dash?" Naruto said, "Whatever his reasons may be, Issei, he's on the other side now. There's no convincing him now. Ain't that right, Volley?" Volley then said, "Yeah, there's no stopping me." Azazel laughed and replied, Whoa, he said that he couldn't convince you. Whoever said that you couldn't be stopped?" Volley smiled, and then a portal opened up nearby. A young adult-looking boy in his 20s came out of the portal and said, "Sorry to break the fun, Volley, but Ophis has a job for you and needs you right now." Volley then said, "That's alright. I was leaving anyway." The youngster said, "Is that so?" Issei then asked, "Who the hell are you? Why are new characters popping up like crazy today?" Azazel answered for him, "That's Baikao, the descendant of the victorious fighting Buddha, you know, the one they call Son Goku." Baikao answered, "It's an honor to leave an impression on you, Lord Azazel." Volley said, "Quit chatting, didn't you say that Ophis called me?" Baikao replied, "Wow, never seen you this rushed before. Well, though you are right, we got work to do. It was nice meeting you guys, but see you another time." Volley then said while leaving, "Be sure to get strong, Issei Hayado. I need a good opponent to fight against in the future. I'll be waiting." As they were leaving through the dimensional gap, Naruto was remaining the silent spectator. Kurama asked, "Aren't you going to follow them?" Naruto smiled and said, "No, it's no use following after them anyway." Kurama asked, "Then, why are you smiling?" Naruto said, "Nothing. We don't believe it." "What are you hiding from us?" asked Shukaku. Naruto said, "For all the planning that Zetsu did, he forgot one single detail." "What?" Naruto looked at the leaving visage of Volley and said, "He didn't consider the possibility of a double agent within his ranks. Now that we have an inside man, we can figure out what he's planning out." "But how did you convince him to do that?" asked the Baijuya, confused about how Naruto convinced his double agent. "Those who follow the way of Ramen can never be evil. Ramen be praised." They would have continued the conversation, but it was cut off when Surtsks, Michael, Azazel, and the rest came by. Michael then said, "I thank you on behalf of the three factions for your assistance." Naruto shook his head and said, "It's not a big deal." Michael smiled and then said, "Nevertheless, what you did here today helped us fight off our enemies, and this we are still grateful. But that leaves only one thing unanswered. Who are you?" Naruto sighed and said, "Why don't you guys take a seat? It's a long story. Oise. Go get us some tea and some snacks." "Why you?" "Because I said so." "Cash? I don't got any." "Stop complaining and go and get what I asked." "Now yeet. Love. An inescapable feeling. Fleeting, joyous, pleasurable, irreplaceable, and eternal. It comes and goes like the wind, bringing unfathomable joy and irresistible pleasure which binds you to your being. No being in this world exists that hasn't escaped the snares of love, for it is universal in all aspects. Family, friends, best friends, more than friends, much more than friends, lovers, and spouses. Once you are in it, there is no escape. You are bound for as long your heart wills it, as long as your body asks for the warmth, as long as your soul never moves on. Ah, but you won't understand this. How would you? After all, how will one know of the present without knowing the past? So let me show you. Well, look who it is. It's the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. It seems you have grown a lot since I last saw you, didn't you, brat?" said Kisame, taking out Sameha. Miuhu then saw Naruto said, "You're that kid from that time, the one who was with that brat Onaki. Azazel. Take care of that lady over there and I'll take care of these two. Let's sync. We'll go with base mode. We can't go all out when the others are still frozen in time. Hopefully, the clone I sent after Rias takes care of this problem." So it was him. It seems that whoever is using the reanimation jutsu has modified their bodies to be stronger than before, said Kurama. Gasper, who retained his consciousness, then said while crying, "Rias, Issei. It's best if you kill me, it would be for the best if I die." Rias then sighed and said, "You were never a burden, Gasper. You are my bishop and a part of my family. Always have been and always will be. I can sense chakra from him. Huge amount. And the way I see it, I can give him 4 sacrifices in asking his forgiveness for not being regular with my rituals. Yes, that sounds good. Who are you?" "No, what the hell are you? Now, why don't you leave these kids alone and play with someone your own size, freak?" Haydn then finally recognized him and said, "Naruto Uzumaki? I see. You're the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, aren't you?" Naruto said, "Oh, that won't be necessary. The boss is taking care of it right now. Motherfudash. Fuck it. While you guys decide on who's coming, I am going to be using Madatabi's chakra. Madatabi, you know what to do." Naruto then shouted, "Fire style, ash ceiling. Zetsu. So you're the one that freed him." Naruto thought, how in the world couldn't we sense his presence when he's nearby? Naruto asked, "Why are you even here? What are you and Kaguya planning?" Zetsu said, "What do you think? I am here to only serve my mother. As for what she's planning, I don't know, but it no longer involves you, Naruto Uzumaki. You would be happy to know that mother no longer has no need for you and that she's well on her way to a perfect recovery. I would want to speak more but time's wasting. Ta-ta." Vala then said, "That's alright. I was leaving anyway." Naruto looked at the leaving visage of Vala and said, he didn't consider the possibility of a double agent within his ranks. Michael smiled and then said, "Nevertheless, what you did here today helped us fight off our enemies, and this we are still grateful. But that leaves only one thing unanswered. Who are you?" And here we are. At this right moment, Naruto was facing the leaders of the 3 factions along with the peerages of Sana and Rias. Naruto sighed and then said, "Well, now that all of you have somewhat recovered, I believe I should start explaining some things, don't I?" Surtsks nodded his head and said, "That would be helpful, yes. But to start with, can you tell us who you are? No, more specifically, what you are. As the abilities you showed today was not something that an ordinary human can do, even with the help of a sacred gear." Naruto said, "Oh well, then let's start off with my name, shall we? My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am a shinobi of the village hidden in the leaves. As to what I am 100% human with a few minor differences." Everyone present except Azazel, Rias, and her peerage were drawing a question mark on their face. Michael said, "Village hidden in the leaves? I don't believe I have heard of such a place in my entire life. Gabriel nodded her head along with Sirafal. Naruto said, I would be surprised if you did, after all it is not a part of this universe. Everyone were surprised at the revelation. Saji then spoke out, get out of here. So you're saying that you are from a parallel universe. You need to bring out a better lie. Sana shouted, Saji. Remember where you are right now. Saji closed his mouth and then said, I am sorry for speaking out of turn. Naruto said, it's alright, Saji. I understand your disbelief, but it is the truth. Surtsk then added, well, I believe you, or I am rather compelled to believe you after seeing what you did on the field today. Michael said, what Surtsk said? Though that begs the question as to why you are here. Why leave your home world? Naruto's expression turned cloudy and said, the reason why I am here, or why I came here was to live a good, and peaceful life. The reason as to why I left, well, it's a long story and a rather personal one. Besides it would have no use to you. Surtsk frowned but nodded, everyone has their own secrets. As long as what you hold doesn't affect our being, then we have no problem with it. Michael nodded his head and so did Azazel. Naruto said, you have my thanks. Surtsk said, so parallel universe aside. A shinobi eh? So am I to assume you are of the same as the ninja from this world? Naruto said, almost. We are like the ninja of this world in modus operandi but in attitude we are more like samurai. Each ninja in our world is tied down to the village he serves where the village in question would accept contracts for a fee. The contract would vary with according to the ranking of the ninja, from meager missions like painting fences and walking dogs, to acting as bodyguards for important personages and assassination missions. Another difference is the use of chakra. Surtsk asked, like what the yokai use? Naruto said, yes, but unlike the yokai, the humans from our world have developed special pathways so that we can channel the energy to enhance our speed, strength, and our reaction timings, and also create different techniques using it. Surtsk said, I see. Rias then asked, but who were those people from before? Why were they with the Cows Brigade? You acted as if you knew them very well. Naruto frowned and said, I do know them. As to who they are people from my world. Or once were. Michael asked, were. Naruto said, they are already dead. Surtsk's eyes narrowed and asked, what do you mean? Naruto said, like I said before, they were already dead before we met. One of them long before my time. But as to why they were here, that's because they were brought back from the dead through a forbidden technique called the reanimation jutsu. The jutsu uses a live person as a sacrifice to bring another back from the dead, with the jutsu caster being in control of the said body. The body is immortal and with no limits to their chakra reserves. No amount of damage will destroy it. The only option is to seal them completely or to have the one who cast the technique release it. Those who heard it felt a shivering cold in their bodies while being disgusted at the lowness of the technique. Surtsk said, a dangerous technique, if it is used by the wrong hands. Naruto added, it would cause complete chaos as you have seen before just now. This isn't the first time I met those two on the battlefield. This technique did cause a whole lot of problems in my world. Sirafal asked, was that bastard that injured me the cause for all of this? Naruto nodded his head, yes, Zetsu, but he works for another and she's much more terrifying than him. Surtsk said, the one called Kaguya? The one he called mother. Naruto said, yes. She's a threat that you can't ignore. Surtsk said, how do you rank her in strength? Naruto looked at Azazel who wryly smiled back at him. Surtsk asked, you know of this? Azazel said, yeah, I met Naruto a while back, just before your sister recruited Haydn over there into her peerage. We decided to keep silent about the matter since we feared that it will cause some unnecessary tension between the three factions if you came to know of this mess. I feared that negotiations will break down before they even started. Sirafal asked, why? Just how powerful is this enemy? Azazel looked at Naruto and then said, if what Naruto says is true then. Even Great Red is just an annoying lizard in front of her. Silence prevailed the room as everyone had a pale face at the threat level of their enemy. Those who don't know about Great Red like the newly arrived devils like Issei, Asia, and Saji had a question mark on their face but those who knew of the being, understood what was going on. Surtsk said, unreal. Michael said, but that's impossible. Azazel said, I'm afraid it is Michael. Naruto has no need to lie. Gabriel who had been silent all this time finally asked, What does this woman want? Naruto shook his head and said, her intentions are unclear for now, but whatever she wants to do, it isn't good. Zetsu said, regardless of what she wants, she has sided with the enemy. Thus we need to act sooner or later. Graphia regained her composure slightly and then said, then how do you suppose we beat this woman? Can any mortal being even defeat her? I can, said Naruto-sama. Lifted an eyebrow and then said, forgive me, Mr. Naruto, but despite the abilities you have shown today, I sincerely doubt you can defeat a person who has greater power than the dragon of dragons itself. Naruto smiled and said, no, I doubt you would believe, but believe me when I say that I didn't even use a 1/100th of my power today. If I did, things would have gotten a lot messy. Sana looked surprised at the confident way he said it that she almost believed what she said. Zetsu asked, it was you, wasn't it? The one who sent that warning back then. You decided to release most if not all your powers at the time, didn't you? Why? Naruto nodded his head and said, yes, you're right, it was me. I was still lurking in the shadows, so I couldn't use my powers to find out where they were, but I wasn't the only one who was hiding. The demonstration I did was meant to delay Zetsu and Kaguya's efforts. It was also meant to draw them out as it increased your vigilance, but the sly bastards were as cunning as always. Graphia asked, now that you have shown who you are, what's stopping you from finding them out yourselves? Naruto said, because I couldn't. The two are holed up somewhere else. Not here in this dimension. They are out of my reach. Now that's the bad news. Naruto now added, however the good news is that right now due to some complications, she has been weakened, thus we can defeat her easily in her current state, but if she somehow recovers her full strength. Zetsu said, it will be difficult for us. Naruto nodded. Michael sighed while massaging his forehead, the Cow's Brigade on one side and this on the other, and now they are working together. Why does trouble never seem to end? Naruto then added, you don't need to worry about Kaguya, I can take care of her, but it would be helpful if you can pool your resources to find her for me. My information network is rather lacking. In the meantime, I think it would be for the best if you can contact other pantheons and create an alliance against the Cow's Brigade. That would give us some more leeway to work with. All three faction leaders nodded their head in understanding as they recognized the threat upon their world. They would take whatever help they can. Zetsu said, all right then, the devils will help you in whatever way we can. Michael added, the angels too. Azazel said, and you always had mine. Naruto said, then I think it is time I inform you of what has been going on. Some time later, Naruto had informed them completely of what their current situation was. He needed the trust of the three factions to operate easily, and if information of a few incidents that is no longer of any consequence to him need to be revealed, then he would do so without hesitation. He spoke of his encounters in this world from start to the finish, with no exceptions other than the tailed beasts. They don't need to know about them just yet. They believed that the tailed beasts are just a part of his powers and it's better that way. Naruto said, and that's it. I have told you everything. Michael nodded his head, very well then. Thank you for sharing this information. This changes a lot of things, Azazel said. Yes, it does. I'll send a missive to Lord Zeus requesting an alliance with him. It would be better to pool our efforts. And here, I recovered this from Kateria's remains. Azazel then handed out the sealing tag that Kateria had used to control the reanimations. Naruto took the seal from Azazel's hands and kept it aside for study. Zetsu said, from my end, I give full permission for Lord Zeus's representative to act freely in the territory until this threat subsides. Naruto nodded his head and said, I thank you all for your cooperation. The faction leaders nodded. And thus the business they came for had ended, so they all went back home via teleportation, including Rias, Sana, and their peerages. Only the guards and some others remained. Naruto thought, so business is done. So it seems. But still we have no idea as to what they want. Yeah. Kurama looked at Naruto for a while before he asked, you are hiding something, aren't you? Naruto said, what? No. I am not hiding anything. It's just that, I may have a hunch as to what her final goal may be. A hunch worth sharing. Naruto grinned and then said, we can find that out now. He then took out 2 sealing scrolls. He unsealed them, and out of that came out a pair of ash-covered bodies. Naruto shouted, Kai. The ash covering the bodies disappeared and thus they came out to reveal the zombified Kisame and Mew. Kisame shouted, "Arg! My head. What the heck happened?" Mew responded, "It seems that we are still in this cursed state." Naruto said, "I am sorry you two, but I just couldn't let you two go, not just yet." Mew asked, "How is it that we can talk now? That woman had showed a seal that controlled us, didn't she?" Naruto said, "I broke her control of you when I sealed you and took control of the reanimation jutsu from the one who cast it by force." Mew said, "I see." Kisame asked, "So what is that you want from us, brat?" Naruto then asked, "What else?" "Information. Once you are done, I can either release you from this jutsu or let you be like this a little while longer, whatever you wish." Kisame and Mew looked at each other and nodded their heads. Mew asked, "So what do you wish to know?" Naruto asked, "Who was the caster of the reanimation jutsu?" Kisame said, "Unfortunately we don't know, only thing we know about him is that he wears a crow mask. He covers his entire body from head to toe." Naruto said, "I see. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything that you remember." Kisame said, "All right." Next evening, it was dark and the clock struck 10. Naruto was walking by the road wearing casual clothes in his real appearance as he moved about. Even though it had become dark, he didn't stop the eyes of many young women to gaze on his appearance. But his mind seemed to be displaced from the surroundings, unaware of the attraction he caused. His own gaze was wavering as his thoughts seemed to be pondering on what happened. "Kurama. Yeah, brat. What just happened? You had your date with the cat kid. But what was that at the very end?" Kurama sighed as Naruto once again thought what had happened. Flashback. It was the next evening after the three factions convened. The entire mess left at school had been taken care of by the devils and angels who restored what was destroyed. Nothing could make Naruto happier at the time when he saw his trees and the garden he worked hard at back to their original state. But that was only the external state. The land had faced battle, so some remnant negative intentions and energy stained the place. Naruto sighed as he felt that he still had a lot of work to do to bring back the place to its original beauty. However, now wasn't the time for that, unfortunately, no. Now was the time to dress up. Naruto wore a orange t-shirt and a black jacket, and wore black jeans. He asked, "Too casual?" "Nah, it's alright. If I were you, I wouldn't keep her waiting." "Yeah, you're right." As to what he was dressing up for, well, it was the date that he had promised Subasa. She had asked him out first thing in the morning, to have dinner with him. It was also his off day, so he agreed, having nothing else to do. Relaxing once in a while was alright, he can't always be worried about Zetsu and Kaguya. Thus, he threw those thoughts to the back of his mind and did his best to prepare for the date. He left the school and walked by to the place they decided to meet up. He was 15 minutes early to the agreed time, so that he can wait like a proper gentleman would. And at exactly 5 minutes after, his date had arrived. My, handsome are we," said Subasa while giving a smirk. Naruto grinned and then said, "I could say the same for you, beautiful." Internally, Kurama gave a dog whistle inside Naruto and said, "Sweet mama. Will you look at that?" Subasa smiled even further. She was wearing a purplish-red dress and thigh-high red boots. The cuts of the dress was made such that her curves were expressed to their maximum potential. Every bit of her screamed sexy. Her hair had been let loose, freely, shortly reaching her buttocks, only seeking to increase her appeal. Her ears and tail also had been let loose, increasing her appeal even further. Any man who saw her once won't be able to take their eyes off of her. And Naruto was no different. However much he had been experienced, he was still a male. But his gaze didn't go unnoticed by Subasa. She then smirked and said, "Oh? Couldn't take your eyes off me, could you?" Naruto quickly turned away as he realized what he was doing. He coughed and said, "Sorry. But you were just too beautiful." Now it was Tsubasa's turn to blush, but she came back and said, "Barely started and you're already flirting with me. My, Naruto Uzumaki, are you falling for me already?" Naruto coughed once again and then said, "You wish. Come on, let's go. I've made a reservation at a restaurant nearby. A friend of mine suggested it." He then looked confidently at Subasa and held out his arm. "Shall we?" Subasa looked at his hand and then grabbed onto his arm, getting as close as she could before saying, "Let's go." Naruto smiled and then the pair walked down the street to the restaurant. Everyone who saw them were awestruck by the couple. Some kept a secret gaze on them as they walked by, while some others had closed their mouths and spoke among themselves while giggling and squealing. However, the pair themselves were unaware about the entire drama going on outside as they were freaking out internally. Don't give in to temptation, Naruto, don't give in to temptation, don't give in to temptation. Arg. Bad Naruto, bad Naruto. Bad, bad, bad. Kami. He's holding me. He's holding me. He's holding my arms. Come on, Subasa. You're not a little girl. He's just holding your arm, don't become a nervous wreck now. Unfortunately for them, this was just the beginning of the comedy that was about to unfold that night. The pair then arrived at the restaurant. It was a fancy multi-cuisine restaurant, and the place looked legit. Naruto grabbed a chair and waited for Subasa to sit like a gentleman. Once she sat down, he too sat down. He then called the waiter to take an order. The waiter came by and asked, "What would you like to have, sir?" "Yeah. Can you give us a rundown on what today's special is?" The waiter smiled and said, "Today, we are going for a Chinese theme, sir. And today's special is the dish, dragon, tiger, phoenix. It's said to fortify the body and the cook said that it's a delicious." Naruto looked at Subasa and asked, "What do you think?" Subasa said, "I'm fine with it." Naruto said, "Alright then, please serve us 2 servings of the dish and some warm sake please." The waiter took down the order and nodded his head. He said, "One special, coming right up." Once the waiter left, Naruto started talking about trivial matters with Subasa. One could see that they were having a good time. The nervousness from before had vanished completely. Subasa asked, "You know, this restaurant looks like a good place. Who was the one who suggested it?" Naruto said, "I don't know. It was a while back and I can't remember correctly." Subasa said, "Oh. But when you remember whoever it was, thank him for me, alright? It's a good place." Naruto said, "Will do." It was then Naruto asked, "Can I ask you something?" Subasa said, "What is it?" Naruto then asked, "What was he like?" "Your husband." Subasa turned silent at that. Naruto understood that he took a wrong turn and then said, "I'm SOR-." Subasa shook her head and then said, "No, it's alright. I want to do this too. No, I need to talk about him." Naruto nodded his head and then allowed Subasa to continue. Subasa said, "My husband. The first time I met my husband. I don't remember. We were together always, since we were young. We were close friends from childhood. He was sweet, kind, and loyal. He never betrayed my trust and showed me all the love, care, and affection a woman can expect from her husband. But he had a drinking problem. And boy was he a lazy lout. He never worked hard in his life. Always too carefree. I loved that side of him though. He took life easily and always had a smile on his face." Naruto turned silent. Subasa then asked, "You were married, weren't you, Naruto?" Naruto nodded his head and said, "Yeah. Wonderful woman." Subasa then asked, "Tell me about her." Naruto then started off, "Let's see here. I have known about her for a long time, ever since I was young. Strange thing is, they each talked about their old spouses and compared them. They laughed about the experiences they had being married and how different it was. They shared sake but not enough to get drunk. It was then the waiter gave and served them the dish. The pair tasted it and found it good. Subasa found it real good. Naruto then said, "My compliments to the chef." The waiter thanked them. It was then Subasa asked, "Yes. This dish is really good. May I ask what is in it?" The waiter was much more excited and said, "Oh, it's a dish made of snake, cat, and chicken meat." The dish was made dash. It was at that exact moment a clattering of plates was heard. The waiter noticed that the woman had turned pale. She then asked again, "What did you say that the dish was made of again?" The waiter once again said, "Snake, cat and chicken, madam." They are dash. It was at that moment that Naruto knew, he fucked up. Kurama within him was laughing out loud, "Ha ha ha ha, cat eats cat. That's fucking hilarious. Ha 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 ha." The others joined him too. Shikaku said, "Give that cat 50 yen, cause she just swallowed another cat whole." Those within his mind laughed except one, and as you can guess it, she was not happy. The others piped down when they saw her, but Shikaku, being the clueless idiot, still laughed. He then responded, "Cat eating cat, pft, ha ha ha." Those within his mind laughed except one, and as you can guess it, she was not happy. The others piped down when they saw her, but Shikaku, being the clueless idiot, still laughed. He then responded, "Cat eating cat, pft, ha ha ha." Oh. Madatabi went near Shukaku and said, "Are you all in the mood for some rat stew?" "'Cause I am." Shukaku then gulped and turned around to find Madatabi staring at him like a prey. It was at that moment, he knew, he fucked up real bad. However, the drama outside was even more hilarious as Subasa was swearing cuss words like crazy with Naruto holding her as she tried to vomit what she ate at the restaurant. Motherfuckers. Making us eats cats? Fucking bastards. Sons of bitches. How about you go and eat a human sausage? Don't understand the words, let me put it in better words for you. Go and suck a big fat co. What followed was a 1,000-liner essay of swear words, words that wouldn't not normally come out of a lady. Naruto wondered how the hell she learned these swears, cause he can obviously take lessons from her in the art. The string of words she made can make a grown man cry. Mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers, great-great-grandmothers, uncles, aunts, sons, and daughters, in-laws, none had been spared from her wrath. Truly, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Subasa said, "Fuck, serving us cat meat, fucking assholes. Who the fuck suggested you that restaurant anyway?" Naruto then thought deep and hard on who it was that suggested it and finally remembered who it was. "Fuck. Azazel, you son of a bitch. This was getting back at me for the prank, isn't it?" Subasa asked. "Azazel?" Naruto said, "The one and only." It was then an imaginary light bulb popped up above Naruto's head, one that he crushed with his hands. He then said, "Say, Subasa, you did say that you wanted to thank him for suggesting the restaurant, right?" Subasa didn't look at Naruto. She said, "That was before, now I want to fucking dash." She then looked at Naruto to be smirking. She finally got the point and started smirking too. She said, "Yeah. He did suggest us to a wonderful restaurant. So we must return the favor for him, right?" Naruto said, "How about you join me in returning said favor in person?" Subasa did a little bow and said, "It would be my pleasure." Naruto said, "Excellent." The pair of human and yokai then Azazel's place. They knocked on the door and waited for a while. Azazel said, "Who is it?" "I am kind of busy here." Naruto asked, "It's me." Azazel said, "Not the best time, Naruto." Naruto asked, "What? Are you watching that weird pedophile hentai that you were talking about?" Azazel, "You know that it's not good for your health to watch that shit." "Pedophile? Filthy beast. And here I thought you were a decent man." A woman opened the door and came marching out. Azazel came out and said, "Baby. Come back." Naruto here was just joking. But that woman had already left without hearing another word. Azazel then shouted, "What the hell, Naruto? Why the hell did you do that? I was this close to boning her, you ass." It was then he noticed the presence of Subasa beside Naruto. He whistled and then said, "It's been a while since I last saw you, Subasa. How have you been?" "I am in good health, Lord Azazel." Azazel then noticed how the two had come together. He grinned and then said, "It seems my lucky boy has found himself a naughty cat, is it?" Naruto smiled and then said, "Well, sorry about earlier. But for compensation, we did bring something for you." Azazel asked, "What is it?" Naruto replied, "Roasted wings." Azazel's eyes brightened as he said, "All right. I was starving here, the pizza I ordered got cancelled. Come on in." Naruto and Subasa entered the house after Azazel with a weird smile on their face. A smile that said that they were up to no good. A while later, the pair was walking down the street laughing like crazy. Naruto asked, "Did you see that guy's expression when he found out what it was that he ate?" "PFT ha 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 ha." Subasa said, "Nya ha ha ha, that was fucking hilarious Naya. That dumb look he made when he found out that the wings he ate was of crocodiles." Naruto said, "And that thing that followed after, where he tried to poke a stick down his throat. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha." The laughter didn't seem to end as they walked down the street back to Naruto's quarters. The audience that surrounded them moved away from them, leaving enough space for them to pass by. But the difference is that, before they moved away from them due to the graceful and otherworldly atmosphere they created. Now they are moving away because they thought that the pair were a pair of lunatics that escaped an asylum and didn't want to get caught in between. Thankfully, none of them called the police as they had better things to do. Our protagonist and his heroine then came back to school where they finally stopped laughing. Naruto said, "Ha ha ha, 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 ha." That was a great way to end it, don't you think? Subasa asked back, what do you refer to? The date? Or the way we felt Azazel, in the middle of the street with nothing but, his underwear and toy wings, and feathers. Attached on his ba ha ha ha? Naruto said, both ha ha ha. They once again started laughing like a person who had Tourette's. They just couldn't stop their mouth from not laughing. However, all good things must end, and so did the laughing. Subasa said, and like you said, that was one hell of a way to end it. The date may have gotten ruined in the middle, but it's alright, I got part of my revenge. Naruto asked, part? Subasa then gave a sickly sweet smile and said, dear, sweet Naruto, did you think that I was going to forgive you for taking me to that restaurant? Azazel may have suggested it, but it was still your fault for falling for it and in turn getting me involved in his little prank. Naruto said, damn. I wished you would have forgotten about that. Sighs, alright, Missy, what do you want me to do? Your wish is my command. Subasa said, well, close your eyes. Naruto obeyed and closed his eyes. He then felt a pair of lips on him. He opened his eyes to find Subasa kissing him on the lips with her hands around his neck. And strangely he seemed to be kissing back without any form of control. It felt like heavenly. Once the kiss ended, he said, Subasa dash, but he was stopped from speaking anything as Subasa kept her fingers on his lips. She said, that was for the wonderful date you gave me. Thank you. Naruto smiled and nodded his head, but before he could respond, he felt a sudden unearthly pain in his nether regions. 'Twas true, Subasa had kneed him square in the balls. Right in the center. He moaned out in pain, ouch. What the dash, Subasa said, and that was for being close to ruining it. Naruto crouched down and held his balls in pain as he said, you could have hit me anywhere other than the balls, woman. Subasa smirked and said, are we asking for a round 2? Naruto straightened up immediately and said, no ma'am. Subasa looked at him with a victorious smirk before it eventually turned into a grin. Naruto looked at her and reciprocated the grin. The grin soon turned to chuckles and the chuckles then turned to laughter. Not the annoying one, but the truly happy laughter. Soon, that laughter ended too as they turned silent. Naruto said, I guess, this is it. Subasa spoke, yeah. Naruto then asked, so, what are your plans from now on? Subasa said, I am going to Tokyo. Lady Yasaka has asked me to speak with the Edo faction yokai. Naruto said, oh. Subasa said, and what are you going to do now? Naruto replied, Kyoto. It's been a while since I last visited. And I have one more reason to go there. Subasa replied, the great ancestor. Naruto said, yeah. Subasa then said, be careful. The ancestor may not be as powerful as you are, but he's way more influential than anyone else among the yokai. Naruto said, I got it. The pair turned silent as they didn't have anything else to say. Subasa then said, she misses you, you know? Lady Yasaka. Naruto said, you told me before. Subasa said, I am telling you again because it is the truth. Naruto looked longingly as he said, I know. I plan to make up to her. Subasa looked at Naruto and understood that gaze. She said, I see. Naruto asked, is there a problem? Subasa smiled and replied, no, there is no problem, for now. Naruto asked, what do you mean? Subasa prepared a teleportation circle and as she was about to leave, she said, you'll find out about it once you go to Kyoto. It seems my competition isn't over. I'll see you in Tokyo. Flashback over, which brings us to the current situation. Naruto arrived back at school and was wondering about what she said while lying on the bed. What did she mean? It's nothing, kid, said Kurama. Yeah, leave it aside for now, Naruto, said the ever-silent Isabu, who finally decided to talk. Naruto then said, yeah. Nothing I can do about it now, I guess. Kurama still noticed that Naruto was out of it. So he asked, and it seems that that isn't all. What's bothering you, Naruto? Naruto said, nothing, but it's strange. Really strange. What's strange? Asked Kurama. Naruto replied, barely moments passed by since she has left, but I miss her already. Strange, don't you think? Slowly, he went to sleep unaware of the conversation that popped up among his beast friends. It seems the cat has made a good mark on the kid, said Jayuki. She may be the one, said Kome. I approve, This one's got good manners, said Matatabi. Manners of a mangy stray cat, said Shukaku. Do you want to go for round 2, Shukaku? Asked Matatabi. No, ma'am, said Shukaku. I don't care. As long as Naruto gets out of his funk, said Komei. I agree, said Seiken. And what do you think, Kurama? You've been unusually silent, asked Son Goku. Everyone's eyes then fell on their most powerful brother as he slept with his eyes closed in a corner. Kurama snorted and then said, I go wherever Naruto goes. It looks like things are getting better now on its own. So let's wait and watch the comedy that unfolds. The other tailed beasts agreed with what Kurama said and turned silent. Lust. An insatiable thirst. A base desire. A quicksand trap that people easily fall into. A sin. But is it? Is it not lust that drives most people towards their goal? Is it not the lust for money that drives an entrepreneur? Is it not the lust for power that drives a politician? Or is it not the lust for beauty that drives a man towards performing better in bed with the woman he desires? LOL, lust can be a weapon if used correctly, if used in the right way, but one can also be easily consumed by said lust and lose their sense of being. A double-edged weapon, as they say. If you don't know how to handle it, you would only be doing more harm than good, to yourself. But once again, why in the world am I discussing a topic that is controversial and is obviously going to invite trouble among the readers? Well, I didn't know how to start off, and now I don't know how to end it, but I do know what comes in between, so, let me show you, Naruto said. Oh well, then let's start off with my name, shall we? My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am a shinobi of the village hidden in the leaves. As to what I am 100% human with a few minor differences. Everyone present except Azazel, Rias, and her peerage were drawing a question mark on their face. Michael said, village hidden in the leaves? I don't believe I have heard of such a place in my entire life. Gabriel nodded her head along with Sirafal. Naruto said, I would be surprised if you did, after all it is not a part of this universe. Naruto frowned and said, I do know them. As to who they are people from my world. Or once were. Michael asked, were? Naruto said, they are already dead. Sirafal asked, was that bastard that injured me the cause for all of this? Naruto nodded his head, yes, Zetsu, but he works for another and she's much more terrifying than him. Azazel looked at Naruto and then said, if what Naruto says is true then. Even Great Red is just an annoying lizard in front of her. Surtsk said, alright then, the devils will help you in whatever way we can. Michael added, the angels too. Azazel said, and you always had mine. Naruto said, then I think it is time I inform you of what has been going on. Kisame asked, so what is that you want from us, brat? Naruto then asked, what else? Information. Once you are done, I can either release you from this jutsu or let you be like this a little while longer, whatever you wish. Naruto asked, who was the caster of the reanimation jutsu? Kisame said, unfortunately we don't know, only thing we know about him is that he wears a crow mask. He covers his entire body from head to toe. Oh? Couldn't take your eyes off me, could you? Naruto quickly turned away as he realized what he was doing. He coughed and said, sorry. But you were just too beautiful. Subasa said, I am going to Tokyo. Lady Yasaka has asked me to speak with the Edo faction yokai. Naruto said, oh. Subasa said, and what are you going to do now? Naruto replied, Kyoto. It's been a while since I last visited. And I have one more reason to go there. Subasa replied, the great ancestor. Subasa prepared a teleportation circle and as she was about to leave, she said, you'll find out about it once you go to Kyoto. It seems my competition isn't over. I'll see you later. What's strange? Asked Kurama. Naruto replied, barely moments passed by since she has left, but I miss her already. Strange, don't you think? I go wherever Naruto goes. It looks like things are getting better now on its own. So let's watch for now and let life play its part on him. Most likely tomorrow. The other tailed beasts agreed with what Kurama said and turned silent as they would wait. And as usual, that brings us to the current moment. It's good seeing you again, Naruto. I thought you forgot all about me, said a woman who had a smiling face. Naruto gave a wry laugh and responded, it's good seeing you too, Yasaka, though I would like to ask you a question. Yasaka asked with the smile that still hasn't left its place, yes. Naruto then said, how long are you going to make me kneel on the floor? Yasaka replied, as long as I wish. As you can see, Naruto was now kneeling in front of Yasaka on the floor and performing a doxa. He was thinking, why in the world did it come to this? You should have thought of that when you barged into this place. True, but I am sure you, our beloved readers, don't understand what's going on, so let's take you back to a time so that you get what is going on. Flashback. The next day after Naruto had gone on the date with Subasa, he prepared himself to visit Kyoto. He didn't decide to go there until now since Kyoto and its issues had been on his mind. But now that he had some time to catch his breath, he decided to use it to the fullest. He made a shadow clone in his place and instructed him to take care of their affairs in Kyoto while he is away. The clone nodded his head but not without complaining. Lo and behold, Naruto was now on his way to Kyoto. He was once again using the same old-fashioned way as he did last time via motorcycle. Once again the police were behind his back as he streaked through the highway like he was a boss. Ha 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 ha. You'll never catch me, laughed Naruto as he accelerated to the maximum. Civilian. This is your last warning. Stop your vehicle, said the policewoman behind Naruto who was chasing after him in her car. She was having a headache due to being part of this mess once again. Meanwhile Kurama, who was in Naruto's mind, complained, remind me, why can't we just use the Highschool to travel there? Doesn't that vixen hold one of your Kunu? Oh come on. Don't ruin the fun, Kurama. And besides, it will be rude to just barge in over there. The Kunu is there only for emergencies. Does this happen every time? Asked Jyoki, who too was a bit annoyed with the mode of transportation. Apparently all the other tailed beasts thought the same. He never lets go of an opportunity to use that unholy piece of junk, said Kurama. Hey. Don't call my baby a piece of junk, you ball of fur, said Naruto. Kurama and the others were too tired to argue and just snorted it off. Naruto laughed as he made his way all the way to Kyoto. The police were more prepared with their response this time and even included spikes to decapitate Naruto's motorcycle, but Naruto avoided each and every one of their tactics by using impossible maneuvers. Finally he evaded the hot pursuit and came to the outskirts of the city where he led the bike and changed his appearance to that of his original self. He then stood at the bus stop and waited for one to come by. Once it eventually arrived, he paid for the fare, found his seat by a window and looked outside. I wonder what she's been up to, pondered Naruto as he looked at the clear blue sky. We can find that out once we arrive there, Naruto, said the Kyuubi. Wow, you really give no space for imagination, don't you? Asked Naruto with a hint of sarcasm which didn't go unnoticed by Kurama. Kurama grumbled and then said with a smirk, fine. I am pretty sure that she's been waiting for her lovely white knight to come pick her off her feet and take her into the bedroom so that she may finally get what she wants. Naruto blushed and then said, what the hell, man? It's not like that. There's nothing in between us. Kurama smirked even further. Oh? But I just said a general idea. I didn't mention it was you, right? Naruto shut his mouth when he knew he fell into an obvious trap that he set up for himself. Naruto sighed and then said, I just had to dig a hole for myself, didn't I? Why can't I just keep my mouth shut? Don't worry, only half of the blame is yours. The other half came from your mother, said Kurama. Don't bring my mom into this, furry bastard, shouted an indignant Naruto. Or what? Are you going to cry? Or is it that you still haven't gotten over your love for Sasuke? Asked Kurama, says the guy with a daddy complex, snot-nosed brat, oversized rabbit, brainless buffoon. Egomaniac, and the insults were thrown at each other over and over again until they finally arrived. Kyoto. Naruto then immediately made his way to the palace, but his appearance was that of his original one. However, he was stopped at the entrance gates once again by a pair of guards. Halt. What business do you have here, stranger? Asked one of the guards. Naruto then had a quizzical look as he had already come through here many times before, but why shouldn't they? Ah. It was at that time he realized that his appearance was drastically different from before. He then said, hello. It's nice to see you guys again. It's me, Naruto Uzumaki. Can you send me through? One of the guards looked at him and asked skeptically, Lord Naruto? Quit lying. Lord Naruto may have blonde hair, but he doesn't have an appearance like yours. Speak the truth. Who are you? What business do you have here? The other guard was an Inugami who sniffed Naruto. He then said, I think he's telling the truth. His scent does smell like miso soup. Naruto made a wry smile at that comment. He thought inwardly, what the fuck? Stop describing my smell to others. The first guard who heard that was astonished, but, how? He doesn't look anything like the Lord Naruto we know. Naruto scratched his neck and said, well, I did do some workout and reduced my weight, so my appearance should look rather different. The guy looked as if he had seen a ghost, ironic, considering the fact that he was a ghost. He later on regained his senses, but only slightly, as he said, I shall look for Lady Yasaka and inform her that you're here. Naruto thanked him as he said, don't worry. I'll find her myself. I want to surprise her. The guard had no problem with that as he said, she's in the gardens right now. Naruto gave a smile and said, thanks. Naruto then slowly made her way to the office, not once being bothered by the gazes on him. Most were wondering who he was as he seemed and acted familiar. But those who found out who he was, were given the shock of their lives, especially the males who were still single. The women around him glanced shyly as he walked by. He gave them his usual megawatt smile, breaking their hearts to pieces and then sticking them right above their eyes. He finally made his way to the garden, where he saw Yasaka looking at some flowers. He noticed that she still hadn't felt his presence and was about to call her when he immediately halted that line of action. A smirk ended on his face as he thought of the best and most simple prank a person can pull on another on. Meanwhile, Yasaka was in her own world, contemplating the yokai affairs and the rest of the world. However, all these thoughts were secondary. Her primary thought had always been one: Naruto. Ever since he left, she started noticing that her feelings weren't false and incomplete as she started to miss him deeply. She was always expecting the day when he would return, when she could finally express what is in her heart. She longed for him, his warmth, his smile, his presence that lit up like the sun in the darkest of her hours. It was at that moment when her guard was completely down, she felt a presence behind her say, boo. Kayayayayayay. Pandemonium struck as Yasaka was scared out of her wits. Her obi almost came off, revealing the snow-white skin around her neck. Naruto, who looked at her, then started laughing like crazy. Yasaka still hadn't identified the person in question even though he looked familiar. She then shouted with impending rage, who are you? How dare you try to humiliate this lady? You'll pay for this. She then lit up one of her fox flame and threw a huge ball at Naruto. However, Naruto just dodged it and said, whoa. Whoa. Stop it, Yasaka. It's just me. Are you trying to kill me? It was just a little prank, shouted a frantic Naruto who held up his hands. However, Yasaka would have none of it. Rage took over as she threw even more balls of flame at him, all the while cursing him. Naruto then slowly approached her while dodging the flame balls and then said, I said, stop it. As soon as he said that, he came by and then stood in front of Yasaka. He then added, it's me, Yasaka. Can't you recognize me? It's me, Naruto. As soon as she heard that, her rage stopped as reason came back to her mind. She then took a good look at him and said, "Na. Are you, too?" Naruto looked at her and then smiled. He added, "The one and only." Yasaka took a good look at the man's face before her. She then slowly gazed in on his appearance and shook her head. "No. It can't be, the Naruto I knew wasn't this." Naruto asked with a curious face, "Wasn't this what?" Yasaka murmured under her breath with a blush on her face, "Handsome." However, Naruto didn't hear that last word and asked again, "What?" "Nothing." Though she said that, all kinds of things were going on within her head right now, and each of them associated with Naruto. Looking that he's finally here, she was finally able to relax, and at the same time, an unexpected shock made way to her brain as she looked down and saw something that she could never unsee. Apparently, those ball of flames she threw at him, while doing no damage, did burn the clothes he was wearing. Naruto wasn't wearing his combat gear at the time, as it was just a normal occasion and thus was using normal clothes. Terrible mistake. Those flames burnt a large area of the clothes he was wearing, revealing his body in full glory, which included a certain part of the male's anatomy. She fainted on spot while thinking one word, "Hunk." Naruto noticed that Yasaka suddenly fainted and then rushed by her side. "Huh? Yasaka? Yasaka? What happened?" Kurama sighed and then said, "Look down, idiot." Naruto finally looked below and noticed his state of attire. It was a terrible wardrobe malfunction, well, destruction, but you get the idea, and so did Naruto. He sighed and gave a wry smile while thinking, "Boy. Am I in a lot of trouble?" "That you are, kid. That you are." Flashback over, which brings us to the present moment where Naruto, who was finally clothed properly in a spare yukata, kneeling in front of Yasaka in a doxa. Yasaka took this chance to then add, "Months had passed since you came back and you didn't even bother checking up on me or Kunu, not even a letter was delivered. Do you know how worried I was? If it weren't for Subasa checking on you for me, I would have beat you to death myself." Naruto lowered his head like a child being chided by their mother. He slowly said, "Sorry." Naruto knew that he was in the wrong. He shouldn't have worried people like this and thus apologized sincerely. Yasaka, looking at the pitiful look on Naruto, could no longer have venom in her heart as it mellowed down. She knew that Naruto was truly sorry for what he did and thus couldn't help but feel guilty for throwing her frustrations at him. She sighed and then added, "But there is a way to make up for it." Plus Naruto looked at her in the eye and asked, "Say whatever you want, I'll do whatever I can to make." Yasaka then said, "Let's go out together possible." Naruto smiled and then said, "You, me and Kunu? Is that all? No problem. We can go anywhere dash." Yasaka then cut him off as she said, "I mean, you and me alone." Naruto stopped as he looked at Yasaka. He pondered on what she said before finally asking, "You mean, like a date?" Yasaka nodded her head while having a blush on her face, "Yes." Naruto looked stunned as he didn't expect that kind of request. He was scratching his neck as he said, "Yeah, sure. We can go whenever you want to." Yasaka smiled and then said, "Tomorrow night." Naruto said, "Deal." Yasaka then gave him one of her most beautiful smile, which made Naruto skip a beat. She then said, "Now then, since you are here, how about dash, Uncle Naruto?" A nine-tailed fox girl looking 11-12ish pounced on Naruto and embraced him in a hug while wearing a school uniform. It was none other than Kunu. Naruto then smiled and said, "Whoa. Whoa. Easy, Kunu." Kunu eyes sparkled and said, "You look more handsome than before." Her eyes darted towards her mother and gave a knowing look as Yasaka blushed. Kunu had already figured out the feelings her mother had for Naruto and approved. She came to look at Naruto like a father, and making it official was also one of her goals. However, Naruto didn't know that as he smiled and said, "Ah. Gee. You think so? Thanks, little one." Yasaka smiled and then said, "Well, now that Kunu has also joined us, how about you tell us of your adventures over dinner?" Naruto nodded his head and said, "Sure." Meanwhile the clone in Kyoto was moving about doing his own business in the garden. The garden was somewhat restored from the fight, and Naruto was all the more happy to bring it back to its original state. To see life blossom once again from a tragedy is always a joy. He decided to take a break. It was still early in the evening and the students who had club activities were still present in school. Naruto found himself a spot to lie on near the tennis courts where the students were present playing games and with cheering on the side. Naruto was not of the sport nor the ambience. But still, he didn't mind having change every once in a while. He lied down on the grass and looked at the orange sky, but it was then covered by a face that entered his vision. He sighed and said, "What do you want, Konako?" Konako then said, "Rias asked you to come to the club." Naruto asked, "Now?" Konako nodded her head, "Now." Naruto asked, "Did she tell you why?" Konako then shook her head and said, "No. She didn't." Naruto thought for a moment and then replied, "Sure, why not?" They then slowly made their way to the club room in the old school building. Naruto once again entered the club, which had all the members of the peerage in it. All of them wearing solemn expressions. The room had a dubious look with all the dark qualities and creepy aura. But he didn't mind one bit as he said, "Why did you call me?" Rias said, "Sorry I called you on such short notice, but I needed all the members to be here to listen to you." Naruto shook his head and said, "It's alright. I had nothing better to do anyway. For the moment." Rias then said, "That's good. So the thing is dash," Issei interrupted Rias and then said, "Will you train us?" Naruto drew a question mark when he heard that. He then asked, "Where the hell did that come from?" Rias sighed and then said, "Like Issei said, we realized that we are far too weak in our current states to fight against the likes of the Chaos Brigade. We need to get stronger." Naruto then added, "So you need me to help actively train you?" Rias nodded her head and said, "Yes." Naruto looked at the members, giving them a smile. Rias and the rest took it as something positive and immediately got their hopes up. Naruto said, "What do you think my answer was going to be?" Obviously, hell no. The entire peerage were shocked at the staunch refusal of their request. Everyone was going to question why before Naruto shut them up with his answer. No matter what you guys are going to say, the answer is still going to be no. Rias asked, but why? Naruto sighed and then said, that is because, you guys have already learned everything you needed to learn from me. I have nothing else to teach you. The club became silent as they heard Naruto continue. He said, now is the period that you all hone the skills you have from what I taught you. I have pointed out your weaknesses and your strengths in detail. It is for you to master them. Your wanting to learn from me is nothing but an illusion. What you guys lack is not training but confidence. Naruto then looked at all the members and said, each of you have grown tremendously in this period. You are not weak as you think you are. It is alright to doubt yourself, but don't fall into doubt completely and close off your mind. Innovate. As soon as he said that, everyone felt a little bit better about themselves. Naruto then said, besides, you guys already have someone to guide you from here on, don't they, Azazel? As soon as he said that, the club members looked behind to find Azazel sitting on the chair with his legs on the desk, smiling. He said, ah. There you go, ruining my chance to show off. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Azazel then said, well, you heard the guy. So from now on, like I promised in the meeting, I'll be the one to guide you into utilizing your powers to the maximum and to keep my end of the bargain for all the damage Kakabile caused you. Naruto said, he is the better teacher for you. Azazel has done much research on the sacred gears each of you hold and has a better understanding of your powers than I do. He would be the best option for you right now. Besides, my style of fighting is not as suitable for any of you here. All of the club members looked determined right now. They did have some reluctance in their eyes but agreed with it. Rias bowed and then said, thank you, Master, for all the guidance you have given us and teaching us patiently thus far. The rest of the peerage bowed the same way and said, thank you. Naruto scratched his neck and gave a wry smile while saying, it's alright guys. Don't need to be too tense about it. I'm not going anywhere, alright. Rias and her peerage smiled at that. Azazel then said, well, now then. I guess I have some announcements with regards to the peerage's living arrangements. Living arrangements? Asked Issei. Azazel smiled and then said, yeah, and you're in luck, boy. Since Sertsk saw that the motivation factor for you to further improve yourself women, he ordered that all female members of the Grammary peerage are to therefore live in the Haydn household. Say what? Asked Issei, which wasn't an overreaction. Naruto wryly smiled and saw the reactions of the different members of the peerage. He saw that Asia and Rias showed some kind of disappointment but that quickly faded away, while Akeno and Zenovia showed some joy. Konako's face was completely neutral. Naruto figured that she wouldn't care about where she lived as long as she got a decent place with candy. Naruto looked at Issei and thought, that kid is going to be in a lot of trouble. But he's getting what he wanted. So that's a plus, I guess. The hectic atmosphere didn't get over as Azazel then made another announcement, and yeah. But you will need someone to supervise you, therefore Naruto will serve that role. Say what? Asked Naruto. Azazel grinned and then said, henceforth, you'll be living in the Haydn household. Naruto was stunned as he couldn't compute what was being said. It took a few moments for him to regain his sense being. It was then he said, are you joking? Why the hell should I move over there and babysit a bunch of brats? Rias and Issei who heard that shouted in indignation, hey. Naruto replied, oh. Shut it. You guys are still brats by my terms. Azazel smiled and said, 1. I wasn't joking, and 2. You'll be properly compensated for this. Look here, chicken wings. If you're not going to be clear and trying to pull a prank here, then I swear on my very existence that I'll share the pictures I took yesterday of you in the dash. Azazel, who was smiling but in a very nervous way as he shut Naruto's mouth from revealing the incident. Oh. It's nothing. Just some private things. Me and my buddy Naruto here need to talk. So we'll go out for a while, alright. As he said that, he dragged Naruto out of the club room, leaving the club members to guess what Naruto was about to say. They thought, what pictures? Azazel then took Naruto to the roof before saying, I know that this will be a little hard for you but please understand dash. Naruto replied back, understand what? That you are basically making me babysit them. In this situation? Does Sertsk realize the kind of threat I am facing? Does he understand the threat that they will face if I am near them? Azazel sighed and said, look. You aren't the only one who asked him of this. He said that the group will eventually face danger regardless of you being near them or not. You being near them gives him an assurance that you'll be there to protect them if there was an enemy that they cannot face. Naruto snorted and said, "It will also make us an easy target." Azazel sighed. He said, "Look, I understand what you're talking about here. So does Zetsu. But it will be effective if everyone is near each other. It will be easy to communicate and work together. You will also be there to assist them, mentally." Naruto sighed. He knew that this was actually better, but it will ruin some of his private business. Naruto asked, "What do you think, Kurama?" The nine-tailed beast replied, "It seems that these guys still don't trust you, yet. Asking you to live there is also a way for them to monitor your actions." Naruto snorted, "You figured, huh? Regardless, I say agree." Naruto sighed, "There isn't any other option, is there? If I need the devil's cooperation, I need to play by their rules." Kurama smirked and said, "But that doesn't mean that you can't have conditions of your own." Naruto had a cunning smile and thought, "What do you have in mind?" Azazel then looked at Naruto thinking for a while before he finally said, "I agree." Azazel replied, "All right, great dash." Naruto then said, "Call Zetsu. I have some terms I would like to speak with him first." Azazel's back started profusely sweating when he saw that smile Naruto had. It was the smile Naruto had when he was up to no good. However, he also had a smile on his own face as he thought, Zetsu, you are in big trouble, my friend. And I am going to enjoy watching the show. Ha 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 ha. Kyoto. Once dinner was over, Naruto was escorted to his room by Yasaka. Kunu had already left for sleep as she had school the day after. Yasaka spoke, "I'm really happy that you came to visit us, Naruto, despite your busy schedule." Naruto replied, "I'm sorry I hadn't done this sooner." Yasaka smiled back and said, "Don't be. I am not angry, you came back. That's all I'll ever need. You just have to compensate for all the time you have missed." Naruto nodded his head and said, "I promise I will." They then came to a room in the corner before Yasaka said, "All right, we're here." Naruto stepped inside the room and thanked Yasaka and turned his back. He then directly crept inside the futon after removing his clothes and stayed inside with nothing but his underwear. It was then he noticed another presence by his side. Yasaka." "Yes, Naruto. Can I ask why you are in bed beside me?" Yasaka gave a beautiful laughter before saying, "To sleep with you. Obviously." Naruto's eyes bulged out as Yasaka's hot breath reached his torso. She started kissing him in various places, but Naruto stopped her and said, "Yasaka. We shouldn't be doing this. Stop it." However, Yasaka didn't stop and continued to cuddle and kiss Naruto as all her tails were wrapped around him as he was her most precious object. She then said, "It's all right, dear. You're the only one that can make me feel this way. So please accept all of me." Naruto thought, "This can't be happening. What the hell happened?" Kurama said, "Whatever it is, kid. You're getting lucky." Naruto complained, "Yeah, right." It was then he noticed the unusual state of Yasaka. Her behavior was a stark contrast from before he met her. Her breath was hot and her body was sweaty and leaking a scent. Naruto recognized what it was, she's in heat. Naruto figured that her cycle had merged with the time he came to meet her. He thought, darn it. She must have been suppressing it until now. Since I made contact with her, I guess she could no longer control it and let it go. Well then, what are you waiting for? This is your chance to get frisky, kid, said Kurama while chuckling. Yeah. The fox is right, said Shukaku. Naruto yelled back at them, I am not some depraved harem protagonist with blue balls. If we are getting frisky, then it would be under the right conditions. Yasaka soon started heading towards the lower regions. Naruto thought, shit. Too close. Need to stop her. Yasaka was trying to remove his underwear when he heard Kunu shouting, Mother. Are you here? It's your heat period. You shouldn't be dashed. She suddenly barged inside to look at Naruto and her mother entangled in an ambiguous way. Naruto looked at Kunu like she was some kind of savior and shouted, help me, Kunu. Kunu figured out what was going on and then said to Naruto, tickle her ears. That's her weak spot. She'll fall asleep as soon as someone does that. Naruto did as she asked and immediately started tickling her ears. Yasaka laughed for a moment, asking to stop. The laughter soon changed to moans that would make a third person think that some adulterous affair was going on. Kunu and Naruto blushed at those moans. The moans eventually turned to purrs as she started sleeping. Naruto then helped Kunu take Yasaka to her room and left her there. Kunu thanked Naruto as she headed back to her own room. As Naruto moved back to his room, he was deep in thought at the incidents that arose. I can finally get some sleep now that that's over. Kurama then said, yeah, shame that you didn't bone that chick. Like I said before Kurama, I'm not going to take advantage of her when her mind's clouded. Kurama asked, are you sure it was clouded? She seemed to speak alright to me. Enough. Whatever it is. It's done. Besides, I don't think she has any kind of feelings for me anyway. Kurama then asked, I'm not too sure kid. Naruto replied, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Kurama snorted and said, figure it out yourself. He then cut off the link he had with Naruto and went to snore in the corner of Naruto's mind. Naruto was confused at the cryptic message of Kurama but didn't seem too bothered about it. He then went to sleep in the room provided for him. This time, alone and in silence.